The first call came at 8:06 on a Monday morning. Marcus was shouting that his car payment had bounced. 3 minutes later,
This is
Tasha
ridiculous.
texted that her
The
card had
payment
been
was supposed
declined
to
at the
clear
store.
automatically.
Then
I am
Derek
not
called
losing my
furious
car over
because
your
the Florida
mistake.
hotel
Fix
wouldn't
it
process the
now.
deposit. By 8:30, Monica wanted to know why the family phone plan had been cut off. I sat at my kitchen table,
This is
wrapped both
unacceptable.
hands
The
around my
website
coffee,
confirmed it.
and
No,
watched my
I will
phone
not
light
calm
up
down.
like an
I am looking
alarm.
at the failed reservation right
I
now.
thought I had lost my
You
mind.
find me a room.
But for the first time in years, I had finally found it. Before I tell you what made me close every single account, please like this video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments how you would feel if your own family treated you like an ATM. Also comment where you're watching from and what time it is there. After Samuel died, the house got quiet in a way I did not know a house could get quiet. It was not just the absence of his voice. It was the absence of small things I had never thought to treasure while they were happening. The sound of his keys landing in the little ceramic bowl by the front door. The scrape of his chair against the kitchen floor every morning. The low humming he did when he read the newspaper, as if the headlines personally offended him. The way he would call from the living room, "Destiny, did you see where I put my glasses?" while they were sitting right on top of his head. When those sounds disappeared, the silence did not feel peaceful. It felt like another person living with me. I was 64 years old, widowed, retired from the records department at a hospital outside Charlotte, North Carolina. And for the first time since I was 22, nobody needed me to come home at a certain hour. Nobody asked what was for dinner. Nobody complained that I folded towels the wrong way. Nobody reached across the bed at 2 a.m. to touch my hand. People think freedom is always light. Sometimes freedom is just a bigger room to be lonely in. My children came around often in those first few months. Marcus brought flowers, once a grocery store bouquet still wrapped in plastic, and set them on the counter like he was embarrassed by tenderness. Tasha came with Brianna, who hugged me so tightly I could feel her tears through my blouse. Even Derek and Monica showed up more than usual, carrying casseroles and sympathy cards and soft voices. For a little while, I believed grief had pulled us closer. Maybe I needed to believe that. Samuel and I had raised Marcus and Tasha in that little brick house with the white shutters and the creaky porch step. We were not rich, but we were steady. Samuel worked for the city for 31 years. I worked at the hospital until my knees started arguing with the tile floors. We paid our bills on time, saved what we could, and taught our children that money was not everything, but responsibility was. At least I thought we had taught them that. The first time Marcus asked for help after the funeral, it seemed harmless. He called on a Thursday evening, his voice heavy and tired. "Mom, I hate to ask you this," he said. That sentence became familiar later. Too familiar. But back then, it still sounded like humility. "What is it, baby?" I asked. He said his car needed a repair. A real estate client had canceled, a commission was delayed, and he just needed a little help to get through the week. He promised he would pay me back as soon as the check cleared. It was $600. $600 was not nothing to me, but it was not impossible either. I had Samuel's life insurance, my retirement savings, Social Security, and the careful little cushion we had built over decades of saying no to things we wanted. So I wrote Marcus a check. He hugged me so hard that day. He said, "I don't know what I'd do without you, Mom." Those words went straight to the empty place Samuel had left. A few weeks later, Tasha called. Her rent had gone up. Derek's hours had been cut. Brianna needed school clothes, and Tasha said she could not send her daughter into junior year looking like she was being neglected. "I'm not asking for myself," she told me. "It's for Brianna." That was another sentence that would become familiar. I paid 1 month of rent. Then I ordered Brianna 2 pairs of jeans, new sneakers, and a winter coat because the one she had was too short in the sleeves. When Brianna called to thank me, she sounded shy and grateful. I remember sitting at the kitchen table afterward, smiling for the first time in days. Helping them made me feel useful. That is the part people do not always understand. When you have spent your whole life being a wife, a mother, a worker, a fixer, a planner, and then suddenly the world tells you to sit down and rest, it can feel like being erased. Every request from my children felt like proof that I still mattered. So, when Marcus needed help with his insurance, I helped. When Tasha was short on her electric bill, I paid it. When Brianna needed money for a school trip to Washington, D.C., I sent it before anyone finished asking. When Monica mentioned that groceries had gotten outrageous and everybody was struggling these days, I gave Marcus a gift card for the supermarket and told him to take care of his household. At first, every favor came wrapped in apology. "Just this once, Mom. I swear I'll get it back to you. You know I wouldn't ask if I had another choice." And I believed them because I wanted to believe my children still saw me as their mother, not as a backup account. I told myself that families helped each other. I told myself Samuel would have done the same. I told myself money sitting in an account meant less than keeping my children from drowning. But slowly, something changed. The thank yous got shorter. The emergencies came closer together. The promises to pay me back became vague little clouds that floated away as soon as the money cleared. Marcus stopped saying, "I hate to ask," and started saying, "Mom, I need you to do something for me." Tasha stopped calling first to ask how I was. She would begin with a sigh, then a long silence, then the problem. Sometimes I could hear Brianna in the background, and Tasha would lower her voice just enough to make sure I understood a child was involved. Derek never asked me directly at first. He was too proud for that, or maybe too clever. He would speak around the request. "Your daughter is stressed, Miss Destiny," he would say. "I'm trying to keep this family afloat, but a man can only do so much." Then Tasha would call later, crying. Monica was gentler. She sent little texts with heart emojis. "You're such a blessing to this family. We appreciate you more than you know. I hope Marcus realizes how lucky he is to have you." Those messages usually arrived right before another bill did. I should have seen the pattern. Maybe part of me did. There were evenings when I would sit with my checkbook open staring at the numbers. My handwriting got smaller in the margins, as if I could make the withdrawals smaller by writing them that way. I would subtract the money for my medication, property taxes, utilities, groceries, church donations, and the small savings I still tried to protect. Then I would subtract whatever my children needed that week. After that, I would sit very still. The house would make its old settling sounds. The refrigerator would hum. The porch light would glow through the curtains, and I would think I am fine. I have enough. They need it more. That was the lie I fed myself. Not because I was foolish, not because I did not understand money. I had spent nearly 40 years working with records, forms, numbers, policies, and details other people overlooked. I knew how to balance an account. I knew how to read fine print. I knew how to plan. But knowing how money works does not protect you from wanting to be loved. By the second year after Samuel's death, my children had stopped visiting without a reason. Sunday dinners became less frequent unless someone needed to talk something over. Birthdays became group texts. Mother's Day came with flowers that I later found on my own credit card statement because Marcus had used the card I gave him for emergencies. I stared at that charge for a long time. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the alternative was crying so hard, I might never stop. The flowers were yellow roses, my favorite. He had used my money to buy me my own Mother's Day gift. Still, when he called the next week, I answered. That was my weakness. I kept answering. I kept opening the door. I kept telling myself that if I gave a little more, they would remember the woman behind the wallet. They would remember the mother who sat up with fevers, packed lunches, ironed graduation shirts, prayed over job interviews, and buried their father with her hands shaking but her back straight. I kept waiting for them to ask, "Mom, how are you really doing?" Most days they never did. And the saddest part is if they had asked, I probably would have told them I was fine. Because that is what mothers like me learn to say. We say we are fine when the house is too quiet. We say we are fine when our knees hurt going up the stairs. We say we are fine when the bank balance makes our stomach tighten. We say we are fine when our own children call only when something is due. I did not know then how far it would go. I did not know about the accounts, the signatures, the messages, or the plan they were whispering about behind my back. All I knew was that every time I helped, something warm in their voices returned for a few minutes. And for a lonely widow sitting in a quiet house, a few minutes of warmth can feel enough to hand over almost anything. The first time Marcus asked me to put my name on something, he did it over coffee. Not at my house, where I might have felt stronger, surrounded by Samuel's chair. Samuel's books, Samuel's old work boots still sitting in the mudroom because I had not found the courage to move them. No, Marcus asked me at a little cafe. Not at my house, where I might have felt stronger, surrounded by Samuel's chair. Samuel's books, Samuel's old work boots still sitting in the mudroom because I had not found the courage to move them. No. Marcus asked me at a little cafe near South Park Mall, the kind of place where the tables were small and the music was just loud enough to make serious conversations feel casual. He arrived 10 minutes late, kissed my cheek, and told me I looked nice. That should have warned me. Marcus was not a cruel man in the way people expect cruelty to look. He did not shout first. He smiled first. He wrapped his requests in charm, in tired eyes, in the language of dreams almost coming true. Mom, he said, stirring sugar into coffee he had not paid for, I've got a real opportunity. I smiled because I wanted to be proud before I knew what I was proud of. He told me he had a new real estate lead, a promising client, a chance to move into higher-end listings. But his car, he said, was holding him back. The old one made noises. The air conditioner barely worked. It did not look professional. In my business, appearances matter, he said. People judge before you even open your mouth. I understood that. I had worked in hospital administration long enough to know people respected you faster when you looked like you had things under control. Then he slid the paper across the table. He did not ask for money that time, not directly. He asked me to co-sign. Just temporarily, he said. Once I close a couple of deals, I'll refinance it under my name only. Your credit is excellent, and it would help me get approved. I stared at the application. My name was already typed on one line. Destiny Coleman. Seeing it there gave me a strange feeling, like someone had placed my coat on a chair before I agreed to sit down. Marcus, I said carefully, co-signing is serious. I know, Mom. I know. But I'm your son. There it was. The sentence that turned caution into guilt. I signed. I told myself Samuel would have wanted Marcus to have a reliable car. I told myself a mother should help her son move forward. I told myself Marcus had a plan. The car was black shiny and far more expensive than what I had imagined. When he drove it into my driveway 2 days later, he honked like a teenager. I came out onto the porch, and he stepped out wearing sunglasses, grinning like he had won something. See, he said, this is going to change everything. It did change everything, just not the way he meant. After that, the requests became more organized, less desperate, more confident. Tasha called one afternoon while I was folding laundry. I remember because I was folding Samuel's old flannel shirt, one of the few I still washed sometimes just to keep the fabric from smelling like dust. Mom, she said, can I use your credit card for a couple things for Brianna? What things? School supplies. A few clothes, maybe some stuff for her room. She's been feeling down and I just want her to have something nice. I hesitated. Tasha heard it. It's not for me, she added quickly. It's for your granddaughter. Brianna was my soft place. They all knew that, but Tasha knew it best. So I gave her the card number over the phone. Just keep it reasonable, I said. Of course, she answered. Reasonable became a word with no bones in it. The first charge was at Target, then another at Old Navy, then Amazon, then a beauty supply store, then a furniture store I did not recognize. When I asked Tasha about it, she laughed lightly and said, "Oh, Mom, that was a desk for Brianna. She needs a proper place to study." I wanted Brianna to have a proper place to study, so I swallowed the concern and paid the bill. Derek's request came through Tasha the way most of his did. Their house needed repairs. Something about the back deck. Something about water damage. Something about not wanting Brianna to live in a place that was unsafe. Derek called me Miss Destiny in that smooth voice of his and said, "I hate that Tasha even had to bother you with this. A man wants to handle his own household." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "I can put it on my card," I offered, "but I need you both to tell me exactly what it's for." "Absolutely," he said. "You'll have every receipt. I did not get every receipt. I got 2 photographs of lumber stacked in a driveway, 1 blurry screenshot of a contractor estimate, and later a charge from a home improvement store much higher than what we had discussed." When I asked Tasha, she sounded wounded. "Mom, do you think we're lying?" That question is a trap when it comes from your child, because the moment you say no, you have given them permission to continue. And if you say yes, you have started a war you are not ready to fight. So I said, "No, baby, I just need to keep track." "You always act like we're taking advantage of you," she said. I apologized. I still hate that I apologized. Monica was different. She never cried. She never pressured me openly. She approached things like she was doing me a favor. One Sunday after church, she sat beside me on the porch while Marcus walked around the yard pretending to inspect the gutters. "You know, Monica said we were looking at the phone plan, and it's ridiculous how much everyone pays separately." I nodded because phone bills were ridiculous. "If we all got on one family plan, it would save money," she continued. "You'd pay less, too. We could manage it for you so you don't have to worry about all those online passwords." That sounded sensible, helpful even. A week later, I was added to their plan. Or maybe they were added to mine. I could not quite tell because Marcus said he would handle the setup. Soon after, charges started coming out of my account every month. Not just my phone, everyone's phones. When I asked about it, Marcus said, "It all balances out, Mom. Don't stress over every little thing." Every little thing. That became how they described anything that cost me money. A streaming service was a little thing. Insurance add-ons were a little thing. A subscription box, Monica said helped her manage stress, was a little thing. A payment plan for furniture was a little thing, because Tasha insisted Brianna needed a more stable home environment. A warehouse club membership was a little thing, because they all used it for groceries, and apparently I benefited too, even though I rarely bought more than chicken, coffee, eggs, and the crackers I liked with soup. Little things gathered like rainwater in a basement. You do not notice the damage at first. You just smell dampness. You tell yourself it will dry. Then one morning, I stopped at the pharmacy to pick up my blood pressure medication. I handed the cashier my debit card and watched her swipe it. Her face changed before she spoke. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she said softly. "It's declined." I actually smiled because that was impossible. "Try it again, please." She did. Declined. There is a particular kind of shame that comes from standing under fluorescent lights with a line of strangers behind you, while a teenage cashier tries not to embarrass you. I could feel the heat crawling up my neck. I used a credit card instead, signed the little screen with a hand that suddenly felt too old, and walked to my car without looking at anyone. In the parking lot, I opened my banking app. My checking account was overdrawn. For a moment, I truly thought I was looking at the wrong account. I had never overdrawn an account in my life. Not when Samuel and I were young and broke. Not when the kids needed braces. Not when the refrigerator died the same month the roof leaked. I sat there in my car medication in the passenger seat, staring at the red number. Then I began scrolling. Phone plan, car payment, online shopping, furniture installment, insurance draft, utility payment that was not mine. Another automatic charge I did not recognize. Something labeled Suncoast Family Resort Deposit. I read that line 3 times. Suncoast Family Resort, Florida. I had never heard of it. My first thought was that someone had stolen my card. My second thought was worse. I called Marcus. He did not answer. I called Tasha. She answered on the 4th ring, distracted with voices behind her. Hey, Mom, can I call you back? What is Suncoast Family Resort? Silence. Not confusion. Silence. Then she gave a small laugh. Oh, that. Derek was just checking rates. Why is there a deposit from my account? It's not a big deal, she said quickly. We were going to talk to you about it Sunday. You charged a vacation deposit to my account before talking to me. Mom, please don't start. It's for the family. We thought you'd want to come. I sat in that pharmacy parking lot with my fingers wrapped so tightly around the phone that my knuckles ached. For the first time, I did not feel needed. I felt entered. Like my life had a door I had forgotten to lock, and everyone I loved had been walking through it whenever they pleased. Still, I did not yell. I did not accuse. I said, "We will talk on Sunday." Tasha sighed as if I were the burden. Fine, she said. After she hung up, I looked again at the red number in my account. That was when fear first slipped under my grief. Not anger yet, not strength, just fear. Because I finally understood that my money was no longer something I gave. It had become something they expected to take. That Sunday, I drove to Tasha's house with a sweet potato pie cooling in the passenger seat and a nervous feeling sitting heavy in my stomach. I had baked that pie because baking was what I did when I did not know how to say what needed saying. Flour, butter, cinnamon, nutmeg. Those things made sense to me. They followed rules. If you measured carefully, if you watched the oven, if you gave things enough time, they usually came out right. People were not like that. The whole drive across Charlotte, I rehearsed the words in my head. I need to cut back. I cannot keep paying for everything. My retirement money has to last. No sentence sounded motherly enough. No sentence sounded gentle enough. Every version made me feel selfish, even though I was the one who had stood in a pharmacy parking lot, staring at an overdrawn account, like a woman who had misplaced her own life. Tasha lived in a 2-story house in a neighborhood where every yard had fresh mulch and every porch had a seasonal wreath. Derek was proud of that house. He called it an investment, though I had helped pay for enough repairs to know investments could bleed. When I pulled into the driveway, Brianna came out first. Grandma, she called, running down the steps. She was 17, tall and beautiful, with her mother's eyes and Samuel's serious way of looking at the world. When she hugged me, I held her a second longer than usual. "You okay?" she whispered. I pulled back and smiled. "I'm fine, baby." There it was again, that old polished lie. Inside, the house smelled like roasted chicken garlic and the vanilla candle Tasha always burned when she wanted everything to feel warmer than it was. Marcus was already in the living room with Monica. Derek stood near the kitchen island wearing a button-down shirt like we were at a business lunch instead of Sunday dinner. "Miss Destiny," he said, taking the pie from my hands. "You didn't have to bring anything." "I never come empty-handed," I said. "No, you sure don't," Marcus joked from the living room. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but something in the joke landed wrong. We sat down around 6. Tasha had made chicken mashed potatoes, green beans, cornbread, and a salad nobody touched. For the first 20 minutes, everything felt almost normal. Marcus talked about a house he was trying to sell. Monica told a story about a woman at her salon who had demanded a refund after spilling coffee on herself. Derek spoke about gas prices like he was giving a speech on national policy. Tasha kept passing dishes and asking if everyone had enough. Brianna sat beside me. Under the table, her knee bounced fast. I noticed because Samuel used to do that when he was worried. Then Derek cleared his throat. So he said, smiling around the table, we should probably talk about Florida. My fork stopped halfway to my plate. Tasha looked at me quickly, then away. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Yeah, Mom, it'll be good. Whole family together. Beach sunshine, no stress. No stress, I repeated softly. Monica dabbed her mouth with a napkin. Honestly, Destiny, you need a break. You've been alone in that house too much. I didn't know a deposit had already been made, I said. The table got still in the smallest possible way. Not dramatic, just a pause. The kind people make when they realize a conversation might not go according to plan. Tasha recovered first. Derek was just trying to lock in the rate, she said. Those places book fast. With my account, Mom, she sighed. One word, heavy with accusation. I set my fork down. My hand was steady, though my heart was not. I need to say something and I need everyone to hear me before responding. Derek's eyebrows lifted. Marcus looked at Monica. Tasha crossed her arms. Brianna went very still. I took a breath. I can't keep spending the way I've been spending, I said. I'm retired. My income is fixed. The money Samuel and I saved has to last for the rest of my life. I love all of you, but I need to reduce what I'm paying for. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Marcus gave a short laugh. Mom, come on. I turned to him. I'm serious, Marcus. I mean, I get budgeting, but you're not broke. Your house is paid off. Dad left you comfortable. Comfortable. That word made my cheeks burn. Comfortable sounded like I was sitting on a throne refusing crumbs to starving children. Comfortable doesn't mean endless, I said. Tasha's eyes filled with tears so quickly I wondered if she had been holding them ready. So, what are you saying? She asked. That we can't count on you anymore. I'm saying I need boundaries. Derek leaned back and let out a low whistle. Boundaries, he said. That's one of those words people use when they don't want to help family. I looked at him. Derek, a vacation deposit was charged to my account without my permission. It was for a family trip, he said. Not a casino weekend. That doesn't make it okay? Marcus sat forward. Nobody is trying to hurt you, Mom. We just thought you'd want to be included. Included, I asked. Or build. The words came out before I could soften them. Tasha's face changed. Oh, wow, she said. So that's what you think of us. I pressed my lips together. Monica finally spoke. Destiny. I think everyone is just surprised. You've always been generous. It's a little sudden to act like people are stealing from you. I looked at her for a long moment. The woman had been using services drafted from my account for months, but she said people, like she was standing outside the whole thing watching strangers misbehave. I didn't say stealing, I said I need things to change. Tasha pushed her chair back slightly, tears now running down her face. Brianna has been looking forward to this trip, she said. She's had a hard year, but I guess if Grandma wants to make a point, then fine. Brianna flinched beside me. I turned toward my granddaughter, but she was staring at her plate. Tasha, I said quietly, don't put this on her. I'm not putting anything on her, Tasha snapped. I'm telling you your choices affect people. My choices, I repeated. Derek gave a bitter little chuckle. Miss Destiny, with respect, what exactly are you saving all this money for? You're not 25. You can't take it with you. The silence after that was different. It was not awkward. It was cruel. I felt the sentence move through the room and settle on my shoulders like a coat soaked in rain. My children heard it. My daughter heard it. My son heard it. My daughter-in-law heard it. Nobody corrected him. Nobody said, Derek, that was too far. Nobody said, she is still a person, not a countdown. I looked down at my hands. They were older than I remembered. The veins stood up under my skin. My wedding ring, still on my finger, caught the dining room light. For one wild second, I wished Samuel were there not to fight for me, but simply to look at me in that steady way that reminded me I was not crazy. Marcus rubbed his forehead. Look, Mom, nobody is saying you don't deserve your money. We're just saying family takes care of family. I have been taking care of family, I said. Then don't stop now, Tasha whispered. That was when I understood something that broke my heart cleanly without noise. They did not hear me saying I was afraid. They heard me saying their access was threatened. Dinner ended badly, though nobody yelled after that. Yelling might have been easier. Instead, everyone became polite in that sharp way people do when they want you to feel punished. Tasha cleared plates too loudly. Derek talked to Marcus about sports as if I were no longer in the room. Monica checked her phone. Brianna stayed quiet. I helped wash dishes because habit is sometimes stronger than humiliation. When I reached for my purse to leave, Tasha gave me a stiff hug. Marcus kissed my cheek like he was checking a box. Derek said, "Drive safe, Miss Destiny," without looking at me. Brianna walked me to the door. On the porch, the night air was cool. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. For a second, Brianna looked like a little girl again, scared after a bad dream. "Grandma?" she whispered. "What is it, baby?" She glanced back toward the house. Then she took my hand and pressed something small into my palm. A folded piece of paper. Before I could open it, she shook her head just once. "Read it when you get home." Then she took my hand and pressed something small into my palm. A folded piece of paper. Before I could open it, she shook her head just once. "Read it when you get home," she whispered. My throat tightened. "Brianna." "Please," she said. Her eyes were shining. "Just promise me. I promise." I drove home with that paper in my purse and my pie plate empty on the passenger seat. My chest hurt the whole way, not like sickness, but like grief had found a new room inside me. When I got into my kitchen, I did not turn on the overhead light. I stood beneath the small glow above the stove, unfolded the paper, and read my granddaughter's handwriting. "Grandma, please check Dad's laptop." That was all it said. 7 words. But somehow, deep in my bones, I knew those 7 words were about to change everything. I did not sleep that night. I tried. I changed into my nightgown, washed my face, took my blood pressure pill, and turned off the lamp beside Samuel's side of the bed. I lay there in the dark with the ceiling fan turning slowly above me, listening to the familiar creaks of the house. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brianna's handwriting. "Grandma, please check Dad's laptop." 7 words. No explanation. No accusation. Just a warning from a 17-year-old girl who should have been worrying about prom dresses, college applications, and whether her friends were texting her back, not about grown people whispering behind her grandmother's back. At 2:17 in the morning, I sat up. The house was quiet, except for the refrigerator humming down the hall. I wrapped Samuel's old robe around my shoulders and walked into the kitchen. For a moment, I stood in the doorway looking at the table where I had eaten breakfast alone almost every morning since he died. Then I turned on the light. It looked too bright, too honest. I did not have Derek's laptop. I did not have access to whatever Brianna had seen. But I had something else. My own records. For nearly 40 years, I had worked around paperwork. Medical records, billing files, insurance authorizations, patient histories, compliance forms, documents people ignored until the day they needed the truth. Numbers had a way of speaking plainly when people refused to. So, I opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and started downloading statements. 1 month, then another, then another. By the time the sun began turning the kitchen window pale blue, I had 3 years of statements saved in a folder on my desktop. I had not used my printer much since retirement. It sat in the spare room, half covered by a stack of old church bulletins and coupons I always meant to clip. When I pressed print, it groaned like something being woken from a long illness. Page after page slid out. Checking account, savings transfers, credit card statements, automatic drafts, authorized user charges, installment payments. The sound of paper stacking in the tray felt like rain on a roof before a storm breaks. I made coffee, but I forgot to drink it. I sat at the kitchen table with a yellow highlighter, a red pen, a notebook, and a calculator. Samuel used to tease me for keeping calculators in 3 different drawers. "You don't trust machines," he would ask. "I trust math," I would say. "I don't always trust people putting numbers into machines." That morning, I wished he were there to hear me say it again. At first, I marked only the obvious things. Marcus's car payments. They were larger than he had told me. Not just the payment itself, but late fees, insurance drafts, a roadside assistance plan I had never approved, detailing services, tire protection, then Tasha's charges. Target, Amazon, department stores, beauty supply shops, a boutique in South End where a single blouse cost more than I spent on groceries in a week. Some of it might have been for Brianna. Some of it might have been for the house. But the pattern was not a grandmother helping with school clothes. It was access. Then Monica. That one hurt in a quieter way. She had always been polite. Never too warm, never cruel. She called me Miss Destiny when she wanted to sound respectful, and Mom Coleman when she wanted something to feel intimate. I had told myself she was simply reserved, but there were charges tied to her email, a meal delivery service, a monthly cosmetics box, a furniture installment plan, a home decor subscription, a shopping account that billed my card every 2 weeks in small amounts, each one just low enough to disappear if I was not paying attention. Little things. I heard Marcus's voice again. "Don't stress over every little thing." My red pen moved faster. Then came Derek. Restaurant charges. Gas stations nowhere near my side of town. A home improvement store. Another home improvement store. A payment to a contractor I had never met. A charge for golf shoes from a sporting goods store. Golf shoes. I stared at that line until the ink blurred. Maybe it sounds small compared to everything else, but sometimes it is not the biggest wound that breaks you. Sometimes it is the detail so insulting, so unnecessary, so casual, that it shows you exactly how little someone worried about your pain. Golf shoes. While I stood in a pharmacy trying to buy blood pressure medication on an overdrawn account, I pressed both hands flat on the table and breathed through my nose the way my doctor had taught me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. It did not help much. By noon, I had a list that filled 5 notebook pages. By 1 o'clock, I had stopped making excuses. By 2, I found the first document that made me cold. It was attached to an email confirmation buried in an old folder I barely used. The subject line said, "Finalized credit application packet." I did not remember receiving it. I did not remember opening it. The email address looked official from a financing company I had never knowingly contacted. I clicked the attachment. A PDF opened. There was my name, Destiny Coleman, my address, the last 4 digits of my social security number, my income range, my date of birth, and near the bottom, an electronic signature. Destiny M. Coleman. I leaned closer to the screen. My hand went numb. It looked like my signature, but not quite. The D was too sharp. The C was too narrow. Whoever had done it knew enough to imitate the shape, but not enough to understand the rhythm. A signature is not just letters. It is muscle memory. It is years of signing permission slips, mortgage papers, birthday cards, and hospital forms. That signature had my name, but it did not have my hand. For a few seconds, I could not move. Then I printed the document. The printer spat it out like evidence. The credit application was for a business funding line, not a repair loan, not a household emergency, not a deck, not water damage, not anything Tasha had cried about over the phone. Business funding. I read further. Marcus Coleman was listed as a primary business contact. Derek Reed was listed as a partner. The stated purpose was property marketing, short-term rental preparation, and renovation-related startup expenses. Startup expenses. I remembered Derek saying their house needed repairs. I remembered Tasha asking whether I thought they were lying. I remembered Marcus talking about opportunity over coffee, his eyes bright. His future always just one more favor away. They had not simply asked me to help. They had built something on my name. I stood up so quickly the chair scraped backward across the floor. No, I said out loud. The word sounded small in the kitchen. I said it again. No, I gathered the pages, but my hands were shaking so hard they slipped from my fingers and scattered across the floor. Bank statements fanned out beneath the table. Charges, payments, withdrawals, drafts. 3 years of my life spread around my slippers like fallen leaves. I bent down to pick them up, and halfway through, I started crying. Not pretty tears, not soft tears. I cried with my mouth open, one hand pressed to my chest, trying not to make a sound, even though nobody was there to hear me. I cried for the woman who had believed every "just this once." I cried for the wife who had promised Samuel she would be careful. I cried for the mother who had mistaken being used for being needed. And then, somewhere inside that grief, something changed. I do not know how to explain it except to say that sorrow has a bottom. You can fall, and then one day you hit something hard enough to stand on. I wiped my face with the sleeve of Samuel's robe. Then I got up. I sorted the papers into piles. Marcus, Tasha, Derek, Monica, unknown, possible fraud. I wrote those words on sticky notes with a hand that was still trembling but no longer weak. Possible fraud. The phrase frightened me. It made everything feel bigger than family drama, bigger than hurt feelings, bigger than a mother being too generous. But the numbers did not care that I was frightened. The numbers did not care that Marcus was my son. The numbers did not care that Tasha had cried. The numbers did not care that Derek smiled when he lied. The numbers simply sat there on the paper and told the truth. By evening, I had filled a folder so thick I could barely close it. I put the forged-looking signature on top. Then the resort deposit. Then the loan documents. Then the automatic payments I had never approved. Then the list of charges I could not explain. I placed the folder in the center of the kitchen table. For a long time, I just looked at it. That folder was heavier than paper, heavier. It was proof that my fear had not been imagination. It was proof that my discomfort had not been selfishness. It was proof that the family I had been trying so hard to keep close had been reaching past my heart and into my pockets with both hands. I thought of Brianna again. Please check Dad's laptop. Whatever she had seen, it was connected to this. I knew it now, and for the first time since Samuel died, I wished my children would call. Not because I wanted to answer, because I wanted to hear their voices and know whether I could still recognize them after seeing what they had done. That night, I did not put the folder away. I left it on the table. Then I made one decision. I would not confront them yet. No crying phone call, no angry visit, no begging for explanations from people who had already shown me they knew how to twist guilt into a weapon. Before I gave them one more word, I was going to know exactly what they had access to. Every account, every card, every payment, every doorway into my life. And then I was going to close those doors, quietly, one by one. The next morning, I dressed like a woman going to war. Not a loud war. Not the kind with slammed doors, shouting voices, and neighbors peeking through curtains. Mine was the quiet kind. The kind fought with passwords, signatures, account numbers, and a folder full of paper that made my hands sweat every time I touched it. I stood in front of my closet for a long time before choosing the navy suit I had worn during my last year at the hospital. It was a little tighter around the waist than I remembered, and the shoulders did not sit exactly the same, but when I buttoned the jacket, I felt something settle inside me. For years, people at work had trusted me with records because I did not panic. I checked details. I followed procedures. I asked the second question when everyone else was satisfied with the first answer. That woman had not disappeared. She had only been grieving. I put on low black heels, pearl earrings Samuel had bought me for our 30th anniversary, and a coat of lipstick called Deep Rose. Then I placed the folder in my tote bag and drove to the bank. The branch sat beside a pharmacy and a dry cleaner in a shopping center I had used for years. I had gone there to deposit birthday checks, withdraw cash for church bake sales, and ask simple questions about interest rates. That morning, the automatic doors opened with a soft whoosh, and I felt like I was entering a building I had never truly understood. A young teller smiled. "Good morning. How can we help you?" "I need to speak with a manager," I said. My voice did not shake. That surprised me. The manager's name was Patricia Harris. She was probably in her early 50s with silver-threaded braids pulled into a neat bun and glasses hanging from a chain around her neck. She had the calm expression of a woman who had seen enough financial emergencies to know that panic helped no one. She led me into a small office with frosted glass walls. "What can I do for you today, Mrs. Coleman?" I set the folder on her desk. "I need to review every account connected to my name," I said. "Checking savings credit cards, authorized users' automatic payments, online access, everything." Her face changed, but only slightly. "Are you concerned about fraud?" I looked down at my hands. "I am concerned that my family has more access than I understood." Patricia did not ask me to explain my pain. I appreciated that. She simply opened her computer and began. The first thing she did was verify my identity in 3 different ways. Then she turned the monitor slightly so I could see without exposing anything to the rest of the branch. "All right," she said gently. "Let's go step by step." Step by step. That phrase became a rope I held onto. We began with my checking account. Patricia printed a list of automatic drafts. The paper was longer than I expected. My utilities, my insurance, my church donation, my pharmacy delivery, then Marcus's car payment, the family phone plan, a furniture installment account, a streaming bundle, a home warranty policy connected to Tasha's address, a subscription service I had never heard of, another payment with Derek's email attached. Patricia placed a small check mark beside each item as I identified whether it was mine. "Mine, not mine, not mine, mine, not mine, Not every time I said not mine, shame rose in my throat. I felt foolish sitting there in my navy suit, admitting aloud that I had let my life become this tangled. Patricia must have seen it on my face. "Mrs. Coleman," she said softly, "this happens more often than people think, especially with family." I swallowed hard. "That doesn't make me feel better." "No," she said, "but I hope it helps you understand you're not the only person who trusted someone they loved." That almost broke me, but I had not come there to break. Next came the credit cards. I had two. One I used for groceries, gas, and medication. Another I had kept for emergencies. Apparently, everyone had a different definition of emergency. Tasha was an authorized user on one card. Marcus had online payment access because I had once asked him to help me set up automatic reminders after Samuel died. Monica's email appeared on a shopping profile connected to my card. Derek's name was not authorized, but charges tied to his phone number had still gone through online payment platforms. Patricia frowned more than once. "Some of these may be disputable," she said. "Some may be harder if you gave permission at any point. But this one?" She tapped a printed line. "This business funding draft is different." I leaned forward. "That is the one with the signature. You have a copy?" I pulled it from the folder. She studied it without speaking for a few seconds. "Did you sign this no? Did you authorize someone to sign on your behalf?" "No." "Did you knowingly apply for business credit with your son and son-in-law?" The words son and son-in-law landed like stones. "No," I said. Patricia sat back. "Then I strongly recommend you speak with an attorney and file a formal fraud inquiry with the bank's investigation department." My mouth went dry. Hearing the word fraud from my own frightened thoughts was one thing. Hearing it from Patricia in a bank office under fluorescent lights made it real. "I don't want anyone arrested," I whispered. Patricia's expression softened, but her voice stayed firm. "I understand, but protecting yourself does not mean you are choosing the harshest possible outcome. It means you are creating a record before more damage can be done." More damage. I thought of Brianna's note. "Please check Dad's laptop." "What do I do today?" I asked. Patricia folded her hands. "Today, we stop additional access." And we did. We changed my online banking password, then my username, then my security questions. She asked me not to use answers anyone in my family would know, so my mother's maiden name became something else entirely. My first pet became a word from a hymn Samuel used to love. My childhood street became the name of a place I had never lived. We removed authorized users. We requested replacement cards. We flagged suspicious drafts. We scheduled cancellations for automatic payments that were not mine. We placed alerts on withdrawals over a certain amount. We created a note requiring in-person verification for major account changes. By the time we finished, my shoulders ached from holding myself upright. Patricia printed everything and slid the documents into a bank envelope. "Please don't discuss these changes with anyone who has had access," she said. I gave a small laugh without humor. "They'll notice soon enough." "Yes," she said. "They probably will." From the bank, I drove straight to an attorney's office. Lauren Mitchell had handled a small update to Samuel's estate paperwork after he passed. I remembered her as brisk, sharp, and kind in a way that did not waste words. Her office was on the second floor of a brick building downtown with framed degrees on the wall and a plant by the window that looked healthier than I felt. When I called from the parking lot, her assistant said Lauren could see me for 20 minutes between appointments. I think she made room because she heard something in my voice. Lauren came into the conference room carrying a yellow legal pad. "Destiny," she said, "tell me what happened." So I did. Not all of it. Not the whole grief-soaked history of every phone call and every apology. But enough. The accounts, The statements, the signature, the resort deposit, the feeling that my family was preparing something I could not yet see. Lauren did not interrupt. When I finished, she looked through the documents slowly. Then she said, "You need to freeze your credit today." I nodded. "You also need to revoke any informal access update. Your estate documents review powers of attorney and create a written timeline of every transaction you dispute or don't recognize." "I never gave anyone power of attorney," I said. "Good," Lauren replied. "Let's make sure nobody can pretend otherwise." Something in the way she said pretend made my skin prickle. She asked if anyone had recently suggested I was confused, forgetful, unable to manage bills, or in need of someone else handling my affairs. I thought of Monica saying they could manage online passwords so I would not have to worry. I thought of Marcus telling me not to stress over little things. I thought of Tasha sighing whenever I asked a question like I was difficult for wanting answers. "Yes," I said slowly. "In small ways." Lauren's pen paused. "Destiny. I need to tell you something." A few weeks ago, someone called this office asking general questions. They did not have authorization, so we gave no information. But they asked what kind of documentation might be needed if an older parent was no longer competent to manage financial decisions. For a moment, I could not hear anything. Not the air conditioner, not the traffic outside, not even my own breathing. "Who called?" I asked. "They did not leave a full name," Lauren said. "The caller said they were calling on behalf of family." Family. The word had never sounded so ugly. I gripped the edge of the conference table. They were trying to make me look incompetent. "I don't know their intent," Lauren said carefully. "But I know the question was asked." That was when the fear changed shape. Before that moment, I had thought my family wanted money. Too much money, yes. Money they had no right to take, yes. But money. Now I understood they might also want control. Control of my accounts. Control of my house. Control of the story people believed about me. I left Lauren's office with a list of instructions and a heart that felt both shattered and strangely awake. On the drive home, Marcus called twice. Tasha texted once. "Mom, are you still upset about Sunday?" I looked at the message at a red light. Then I put the phone face down on the passenger seat. At home, I placed the bank envelope beside the folder on the kitchen table. 2 piles now. Proof of what had happened. Proof of what I had done about it. That evening, I answered one message in the family group chat. Of course, I did not tell them about Patricia. I did not tell them about Lauren. I did not tell them about the frozen credit, the canceled access, the changed passwords, or the attorney's warning. I wrote only this: "I'm tired tonight. We can talk later. Love you all." Tasha sent a heart. Marcus sent a thumbs up. Monica wrote, "Rest Mom Coleman." Derek did not respond. I sat there looking at those little symbols on my screen, amazed by how ordinary betrayal could look when dressed up in emojis. Then I turned the phone off. For the first time in years, my silence was not weakness. It was strategy. 3 days after I changed the passwords, Marcus invited me to his house for what he called a casual family talk. That was the phrase he used in his text. Casual family talk. I stared at those words while standing in my laundry room holding a basket of towels still warm from the dryer. There was nothing casual about my family anymore. Every conversation had started to feel like a hallway with a closed door at the end, and I never knew what would be waiting behind it. Still, I answered the way I had been answering all week. "Sure, baby. What time?" He replied almost immediately. "Saturday at 4. Everybody will be here. We just want to plan something nice." Something nice? By then, I had learned that when my children said something nice, they usually meant something expensive. I did not tell Marcus that my bank account was already locked down. I did not tell him Patricia had flagged the drafts or that Lauren had given me instructions written in neat black ink on a yellow legal pad. I did not tell him my credit was frozen, my passwords were changed, and my documents were sitting in labeled folders inside the bottom drawer of Samuel's old desk. Instead, I went. Not because I was weak, because I needed to hear what they would say when they still thought I did not know enough. Marcus and Monica lived in a newer neighborhood outside Charlotte where the houses were tall and close together with stone fronts and garages that seemed to take up half the building. Marcus liked that house because it looked successful from the street. I knew he liked that because he had said it once standing in the driveway with his arms folded, looking at it like a trophy. People respect you different when you live somewhere like this, he had told me. I had wondered then who people were. Now I wondered how much of that respect I had unknowingly paid for. When I arrived, Derek's SUV was already parked crooked in front of the curb. Tasha's car was in the driveway. Monica opened the door before I rang the bell. "Mom Coleman," she said warmly. Too warmly. "Come in. We were just getting started." She hugged me, and the scent of her perfume stayed on my jacket after she let go. Inside, the kitchen island was covered with snacks. Cheese cubes, crackers, grapes, little sandwiches cut into triangles, and a pitcher of sweet tea with lemon slices floating on top. It looked like a baby shower without the balloons, a performance of comfort. Brianna sat at the far end of the couch with her phone in her lap. When she saw me, her eyes lifted quickly, then dropped again. That told me more than any greeting could have. "Hey, Grandma," she said softly. "Hey, sweetheart." Marcus clapped his hands together. "All right, Mom's here. Let's talk." No one asked how I had been sleeping. No one asked whether I had picked up my medication. No one mentioned Sunday dinner or the hurt that had filled Tasha's dining room like smoke. Derek leaned against the counter, confident as ever. Tasha stood beside him, arms folded, wearing the careful face she used when she wanted to look wounded but reasonable. Monica moved around pouring tea, acting like a hostess of a meeting she was pretending not to control. Marcus gestured toward an armchair. "Sit down, Mom." I did. He remained standing. That was the first thing I noticed. People who want a conversation sit with you. People who want to convince you stand over you. So Marcus began. "We've all been thinking." I almost smiled. That sentence should have frightened me more than it did. "About Florida?" I asked. Tasha brightened a little, as if relieved I had brought it up first. "Yes," she said. "About Florida. And about everything, really." Derek nodded. "We know Sunday got tense. Nobody wants that. We're family." "Family again?" They kept using that word like a key, trying every lock on me. Marcus walked over to the coffee table and picked up a folder. Not my folder, his. It was thin and glossy, the kind salespeople use when they want numbers to look prettier than they are. "I put together some options," he said. Of course he had. He opened the folder and spread papers across the table. Resort photos, flight estimates, rental car prices, a schedule with beach days, a dinner cruise, and something called Family Renewal Night, which sounded like therapy with a buffet. Derek pointed at one of the resort pictures. "This place is perfect. Not too fancy, but nice enough where everybody can relax. Pool beach access activities for Brianna." "Activities for Brianna," I repeated. Brianna's face tightened. Tasha sat on the couch near me. "Mom, she's been under so much pressure. Senior year is coming, college applications, everything changing. A trip would mean the world to her." I turned to Brianna. "Is that true, baby?" Her mouth opened, but Tasha answered first. "Of course it is." I kept my eyes on Brianna. She looked down at her phone. "I mean, Florida is nice." It was the saddest little sentence. Derek jumped in. "And it's not just for her. It's for you too, Miss Destiny. You need to get out of that house. You need sun, laughter, family around you. Samuel wouldn't want you sitting alone all the time. There it was. They had brought Samuel into it. My chest tightened, but I kept my face still. You think Samuel would want me to pay for everyone's vacation? I asked. Derek smiled, like I had made a joke. I think Samuel would want this family together. Marcus sat across from me at last, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. Mom, nobody is saying you have to cover everything forever. We just need help getting this trip set. After that, we'll figure things out. That was another familiar phrase. Well, figure things out. It usually meant I would figure out the bill. Monica handed me a glass of tea. And honestly, Destiny, this might be a good time to think bigger too. I looked at her. Bigger than Florida. She glanced at Marcus, then gave me a soft smile. About your living situation. The room became very clear to me then. The food, the folder, the sweetness, the mention of Samuel. Brianna sitting small at the edge of the couch. They had not invited me there just to plan a vacation. Marcus cleared his throat. Mom, your house is a lot for one person. My house is fine. It's old, he said gently. There's maintenance. Yard work, stairs. What happens if something breaks? What happens if you fall? I have not fallen. But you could, Tasha said quickly. And we worry. I almost asked, do you worry or do you calculate? But I stayed quiet. Derek moved closer to the table. There are some really nice condos near Ballantyne. Safe, modern, no yard. You'd have less to manage. Monica nodded. And you'd be closer to family. Closer to family. Closer to their eyes, their hands, their needs. Marcus slid another sheet toward me. I ran some numbers, he said. Your house could sell for a very good price right now. The market is still strong in that area. You could buy a condo cash and still have plenty left over. Plenty left over. He said those words softly, but everyone heard them. Tasha leaned forward. And that money could help stabilize everybody, not as a handout, as a family plan. A family plan? I said. Yes, Marcus said. We could pay down some debts, get breathing room, help Brianna with college, maybe invest in something that benefits all of us. I looked from face to face. My son, who had put my name on a car loan. My daughter, who had learned to cry whenever I said no. My son-in-law, who thought my age made my money more available. My daughter-in-law, who had smiled while small charges bled from my account. And my granddaughter, sitting silent, ashamed of adults, who should have protected her from all of this. Something inside me went very still. Not numb, not broken. Still. Like water before ice forms. That is a lot to think about, I said. Marcus blinked. He had expected more resistance. Tasha reached for my hand. Mom, we're not trying to pressure you. Her hand was warm over mine. I looked at it and remembered holding that same hand when she was 5 years old, crossing a parking lot after dance class. Back then, she had trusted me to lead her safely through moving cars. Now she was squeezing my fingers while trying to guide me towards selling the only home I had left with Samuel's fingerprints still on it. I gently pulled my hand back. I said, I'll think about it. Derek's jaw tightened, but he covered it with a smile. Of course, he said. No rush. There was a rush. I could feel it under every polite word. I stayed another 20 minutes. I ate one triangle sandwich, drank half the tea, and listened while they returned to Florida details, as if the house conversation had been casual too. Marcus talked about payment deadlines. Tasha mentioned Brianna's schedule. Monica said she could help me sort closets when I was ready to downsize. Derek said he knew a guy who could help with renovations before listing. They had already moved me in their minds. By the time I stood to leave, I understood something with a cold clarity that almost made me dizzy. They did not want to help me live easier. They wanted me liquid. They wanted my home turned into money. At the door, Brianna hugged me quickly. Her hands trembled against my back. "Be careful driving," she whispered. I looked at her. She pulled away before I could answer. On the drive home, I did not cry. I did not turn on the radio. I drove through streets lined with trees and tidy lawns, past people walking dogs and children riding bikes, while my family's voices replayed in my head. Plenty left over. Family plan. Closer to family. Downsize. When I got home, the house greeted me with its old, familiar quiet. For the first time in days, that quiet did not feel like loneliness. It felt like shelter. I locked the front door behind me. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Brianna. No words, just photos. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table and opened them. Screenshots. A group chat. Marcus, Tasha, Derek, Monica. No me. At first, my eyes moved too fast to understand. Then one line stopped me cold. Derek had written, "We need to get the family ATM to agree before she changes her mind." The family. ATM. I stared at those 3 words until the screen blurred. Then another message from Marcus appeared in the screenshot. "Don't push too hard. Mom folds when she thinks we're worried about her." Then Tasha. "Use Brianna if you have to. She always gives in when it's about Bree." My hand covered my mouth. I did not make a sound. The house was silent around me, but something inside that silence split wide open. They had not simply forgotten I was human. They had discussed how to use the parts of me that still loved them. I sat at my kitchen table with Brianna's screenshots glowing in my hand, and for a few minutes, I could not make myself scroll. The first messages had already done enough damage. The family, ATM. Mom folds when she thinks we're worried about her. Use Brianna if you have to. Those words did not feel like words. They felt like hands. Hands reaching into my chest, pulling apart every memory I had tried to protect. I thought of Marcus as a little boy with scraped knees running into my arms because he had fallen off his bike. I thought of Tasha at 7 years old climbing into my bed during thunderstorms. I thought of the nights Samuel and I stayed up counting dollars, deciding what we could go without, so the children could have what they needed. And now, my children were sitting in a private chat, discussing which emotional buttons to press, so I would give them more. The kitchen clock ticked above the stove. Tick, tick, tick. It sounded too calm for what was happening inside me. Finally, I forced myself to open the next screenshot. The group chat name was Simple Family Plan. Not Florida trip. Not mom's care. Not house discussion. Family plan. Derek had written, "She's starting to ask too many questions about the accounts." Monica replied, "Marcus said he changed some passwords for her after Samuel died. Does she even remember what's linked where Marcus answered? She remembers more than you think, but she gets overwhelmed. Don't make it look like we're hiding anything." Then Tasha. "We aren't hiding anything. We're trying to keep everyone afloat." I stared at that sentence. That was how people justified taking things. They changed the language. They did not call it using me. They called it keeping everyone afloat. They did not call it pressure. They called it concern. They did not call it stealing dignity from an old woman. They called it family. I scrolled again. Derek. "The house is the real solution. If she sells, everybody can breathe." Monica. "She won't sell if she thinks it's for us." Marcus. "Then it can't be presented that way. It has to be about safety, maintenance, loneliness. Make her feel like staying there is risky." My hand started shaking so badly the phone screen blurred. Make her feel. Not ask her what she felt. Not care how she felt. Make her feel. Tasha replied, She does get lonely. That part isn't fake. Derek, good. Use that. I put the phone down and covered my eyes. There are kinds of pain that make you cry immediately. Then there are kinds that are so deep they seem to travel past tears. This was the second kind. It did not come out of me. It settled in me heavy and cold. I had told myself so many stories to survive. Marcus was stressed. Tasha was overwhelmed. Derek was proud. Monica was quiet. They did not mean to hurt me. They just did not understand. But there in those screenshots was understanding. Clear understanding. They knew exactly where I was soft. They knew exactly which wounds to touch. They knew I missed my husband. They knew I feared becoming a burden. They knew Brianna was my heart, and they had made a strategy out of it. Another screenshot came in, then another. Brianna was still sending them. I opened the next one with a kind of dread that made my stomach turn. Tasha, if Mom thinks Bree is disappointed, she'll pay for Florida. She always gives in when it's about Bree. Monica. Is Bree okay with this? Tasha? She doesn't need to know everything. Derek kids don't get a vote in adult problems. Marcus. Just be careful. Brianna watches too much. That line made my breath catch. Brianna watches too much. So they had noticed her noticing. I touched the screen where her name appeared, and suddenly the anger I had been too stunned to feel started rising. Not for myself first. For her. My granddaughter had been placed in the middle of grown people's greed. She had been turned into a tool, a bargaining chip, a soft spot they could press in me whenever direct pressure failed. She was only 17, and already she was learning that love could be twisted into leverage. My phone rang. Brianna. For a moment, I just stared at her name. I did not know how to answer without falling apart. But I knew if I did not answer, she would think she had done something wrong. So I picked up. Grandma. Her voice was small. I'm here, baby. She started crying before she could speak again. Not loud crying, the kind a person tries to hide and fails. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have looked. I know I shouldn't have, but Dad left his laptop open and I saw your name, and then I saw what they were saying, and I just... Brianna, I said gently, though my own voice was breaking. Listen to me. You did not do anything wrong by telling me the truth. But I read their messages, and they wrote them. Silence. Then she sobbed once hard. I didn't know what to do, she whispered. They keep talking about you like you're not you. I closed my eyes. Like you're not you. A child had found the simplest way to say what the adults had done. What else did you see? I asked. She was quiet so long that I thought the call had dropped. Then she said, Grandma, I don't want you to go to Florida. The room seemed to tilt. Why? Because I heard Dad and Uncle Marcus talking in the garage last week. I stood up slowly. What did they say? Brianna sniffed. They were talking about paperwork. Dad said Florida would be a good time because you'd be relaxed. He said if everyone was together and the mood was right, maybe they could get you to sign something. My fingers tightened around the phone. What kind of something? I don't know exactly. He said power of attorney. Uncle Marcus said they couldn't just spring it on you, and Dad said they wouldn't call it that at first. He said it could be framed as emergency planning. The words went through me like ice water. Emergency planning. Power of attorney. Relaxed. Mood was right. I sat back down because my knees no longer felt trustworthy. Brianna continued, her voice trembling. Mom told him not to say it around me. Then Dad said I was always upstairs anyway. But I wasn't. I was in the laundry room. I could picture it too clearly. My granddaughter standing behind a half-open door, holding a basket or a hoodie, hearing her own parents discuss how to corner her grandmother into signing away control. Did they say who would get the power, I asked? I think Uncle Marcus. Or maybe Mom. Dad said it didn't matter as long as they could stop you from making emotional decisions. Emotional decisions. I almost laughed. My decision to ask questions was emotional. Their decision to use my credit, my accounts, my house, and possibly my legal authority was practical. That was how manipulation worked. It made your boundaries look like instability and their greed look like concern. Grandma, are they going to be in trouble? Brianna asked. I heard the child in her then. Under all that courage, she was still a daughter who loved her mother, still a niece who had known Marcus all her life, still a girl, afraid that truth might blow up the only family she had. I don't know, I said honestly. But I know this has to stop. I don't want everybody to hate me. Oh, sweetheart. My voice broke completely then. If anyone blames you for telling the truth, that blame belongs to them, not you. She cried harder. I wanted to drive to her house, wrap her in a blanket, and bring her home with me. But I knew that would create a storm before I was ready. So I stayed where I was, one hand gripping the edge of my table, and I did the hardest thing. I stayed calm for her. Brianna, I need you to listen carefully, I said. Do not argue with them. Do not tell them you sent me anything. Do not try to get more messages. Do you understand? But what if they delete stuff? I have enough for now. But Grandma, I mean it. I need you safe more than I need another screenshot. Her breathing slowed a little. Okay, she whispered. And Bree, yes, I am proud of you. She went quiet. Then in the smallest voice she said, I love you. I pressed my hand to my mouth. I love you too, baby. After we hung up, the kitchen felt different. The same table, the same curtains, the same little lamp glowing in the corner, the same framed photograph of Samuel holding Marcus as a newborn Tasha standing beside him in pigtails. All of us smiling at a life before any of this. But I was not the same woman sitting there. For a long time, I did not cry. I just gathered the printed statements, the loan document, the bank envelope, and now Brianna's screenshots. I sent the screenshots to a secure folder Lauren had told me to create. I emailed copies to myself. Then I placed the phone face down and walked to the sink. Only then did my body give way. I slid down the cabinet until I was sitting on the kitchen floor, and I cried. I cried for the mother I had been. I cried for the family I thought I had. I cried for Brianna, who had been brave enough to see ugliness adults tried to hide. And I cried because in that moment I understood with painful clarity that this was no longer about money. Money was only the door. What they wanted was control. Control of my accounts, control of my house, control of my choices, control of the story people would believe if I dared to resist. I sat on that floor until my tears ran out. Then I looked toward the hallway where Samuel's old desk stood in the den. The folder was there, the bank documents were there, Lauren's instructions were there, and suddenly, so was my answer. I would not go to Florida. I would not sign anything. I would not warn them. I would not beg them to love me properly. I would do exactly what Patricia and Lauren had prepared me to do. I would close every door they had opened into my life. And when they finally realized the family ATM had gone dark, they would learn something they should have known long before. I was not a machine. I was their mother, and I was done being used. The morning I closed the accounts, I woke before sunrise. For a long time, I stayed in bed with my eyes open, listening to the world before it got noisy. No traffic yet, no lawnmowers, no phones buzzing with demands. Just the old house breathing around me. The same house Marcus wanted me to sell, the same house Tasha thought she could turn into a family solution, the same house Samuel and I had spent 38 years turning from brick and wood into a life. I turned my head toward his side of the bed. The pillow was still there, not untouched. Nothing stays untouched by grief, but still his in a way I could not explain to anyone who had not lost the person who knew where every floorboard creaked. "I'm going to do it today," I whispered. The room did not answer, but I felt steadier after saying it aloud. I made coffee, though my stomach was too tight to drink much. I showered, dressed in black slacks and a gray sweater, and packed my tote bag like I was preparing for court bank envelope. Lauren's checklist printed statements, screenshots, loan documents, identification, social security card, and a notebook filled with dates. Before leaving, I stood in my kitchen and looked around. The table where Samuel used to read. The window where Brianna once taped paper snowflakes at Christmas. The counter where Tasha had sat at 16, crying over her first heartbreak. The doorway where Marcus had stood in his cap and gown, pretending not to care that I was taking too many pictures. Love had lived in that house. That was why what they did hurt so much. Because they were not strangers who broke in. They were people I had given keys to. At 9:03, I walked into the bank and asked for Patricia Harris. When she came out of her office and saw my face, she did not waste time with small talk. "Are you ready?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm ready." We started with the credit cards. Every authorized user was removed. Every old card number was canceled. New cards would be issued in my name, only mailed to the bank for pickup instead of my house, because Patricia said it was safer that way. I had never imagined needing to protect my mail from my own family, but by then, I was learning that betrayal often entered through ordinary doors. Next came automatic payments. Marcus's car payment canceled. The family phone plan canceled. Furniture installments canceled. Shopping accounts canceled. Streaming bundles canceled. Home warranty at Tasha's address canceled. Meal services, subscription boxes, insurance, add-ons, payment platforms, resort deposits, online shopping accounts, one by one. Patricia helped me identify them, stop them, flag them, or transfer responsibility away from me. Each cancellation made a small sound on her keyboard. Click, click, click. It sounded like locks turning. At one point, Patricia paused and looked at me over her glasses. "Mrs. Coleman, some of these companies may contact the users when payment fails. I know. That may happen quickly. I know." She hesitated. "Are you safe at home?" The question sat between us. I wanted to say yes immediately, the way proud women do when they do not want anyone to know how badly they have been shaken. But Lauren's voice came back to me. "Do not minimize risk just because it embarrasses you." "I think so," I said. "But my family will be angry." Patricia nodded. "Then let's add another layer." She placed a verification note on my account. "No major changes without my approval counts. No major changes without my physical presence and a photo ID. No phone requests. No online beneficiary changes. No new authorized users. No debit replacement sent to any alternate address. Any suspicious call was to be escalated." Then came the account I had once called the Family Emergency Fund. Samuel and I had opened it years ago. It was not large, but it had been a cushion money for real emergencies. A medical bill, a broken furnace, a plane ticket if someone needed to come home fast. After he died, I had let Marcus and Tasha know it existed because I thought it would comfort them. Instead, it had become a trough. Small transfers had gone out over time. Not always huge. Sometimes 200. Sometimes 500. Once 2,500 with a note from Marcus that simply read, "We'll explain later." He never did. "Close it," I said. Patricia looked up. "You're sure?" I stared at the account name on the screen. Family Emergency Savings. For a moment, I remembered Samuel sitting beside me when we opened it. He had squeezed my hand and said, "This way, if the kids ever really need us, we'll have something ready." The kids, not grown adults with luxury charges and secret plans. Not people trying to make me look incompetent. Not people calling me an ATM behind my back. "Yes," I said. "Close it." She did. The money left in it was transferred into a new protected savings account under my name only. No linked external users, no shared access, no alerts to anyone but me. After the bank, I drove to Lauren's office. We froze my credit with all 3 bureaus. We drafted letters disputing the questionable business funding application. We prepared written notices revoking any informal permission others might claim. Lauren updated my estate documents so that no one could use confusion pressure or emergency language to push through changes without independent legal review. She also told me to document every conversation from that day forward. "People behave differently when money stops," she said. I gave a tired smile. I'm about to find out how differently. By early afternoon, the first crack appeared, a text from Tasha. "Mom, is something wrong with your card? It's declining." I looked at it while sitting in my car outside Lauren's office. Then another message. "Mom, I'm at the store." Then, "This is embarrassing." I did not answer. 10 minutes later, Marcus called. I let it ring. He called again. Then a text. Why did my car payment bounce? A minute after that, "Mom, call me now." Then Derek. At first, he did not text. He called 3 times in a row the way men call when they believe persistence is authority. When I did not answer, he sent one message. "We need to talk about whatever you think you're doing. Whatever I think I'm doing." I almost laughed. For years they had acted. I had reacted. They had charged, drafted, asked, pushed, planned. I had answered, paid, excused, apologized. Now for one day, I was the one who moved first. By 3 o'clock, Monica entered the chorus. "Mom, Coleman, did something happen with the phone plan?" My line says, "Service may be interrupted." I looked at that one longer than the rest. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Did someone steal your information?" Not, "I'm sorry if we caused confusion." Just my line. At 4:12, Tasha called crying. I know she was crying because she left a voicemail. "Mom, I don't understand why you're doing this. I was in the middle of buying groceries. People were behind me. Do you know how humiliating that was? Brianna needs things and you just cut everything off without even talking to me. Please call me. This isn't like you. This isn't like you." That sentence nearly got me. Because she was right. It was not like the woman they had trained me to be. The old me would have called back. The old me would have apologized for the embarrassment, even though the card was mine. The old me would have asked how much the groceries were and transferred money, then sat alone afterward feeling vaguely sick and unable to name why. I put the phone down. At 5, Marcus left a voicemail. His voice was tight. "Mom, I don't know who got in your head, but canceling my payment is not okay. That affects my credit. That affects my work. You know I need that car. You can't just pull the rug out from under people. Pull the rug out." As if the rug had not been woven from my retirement. As if I had not been standing on bare floor for years. At 6, Derek finally left his own message. It was not crying. It was cold. "Miss Destiny, this is going to create problems you don't understand. You need to call us before this gets ugly." Before this gets ugly. I looked around my quiet kitchen. It was already ugly. It had been ugly in the group chat, ugly in the forged-looking signature, ugly in the whispered plan for power of attorney. ugly at the dinner table when he told me I could not take my money with me. The only difference now was that the ugliness had become inconvenient for them. By sunset, I knew I could not stay in that house listening to my phone vibrate against the table like a trapped insect. So I turned it off. Then I picked up my keys and drove to the cemetery. Samuel was buried beneath an oak tree on a gentle slope not far from a little stone bench. I had chosen that spot because he loved shade and because from there you could see the sky open wide beyond the trees. The evening air was cool. I walked slowly across the grass, my shoes sinking slightly into the ground. When I reached his headstone, I brushed away a few dry leaves. Samuel James Coleman, beloved husband, father, and friend. I sat down beside him, not caring if the grass dampened my slacks. For a while, I said nothing. Then the tears came quiet and hot. I whispered. I tried to keep everybody together. The wind moved through the oak leaves above me. I thought if I gave enough, they would feel loved enough. I thought if I helped enough, they would come around. I thought money was easier to lose than family. My voice broke. But Samuel, I think I was losing both. I pressed my palm flat against the cool stone. I closed the accounts today. There it was, the truth. I don't know what happens next. They're going to hate me. They're going to say, I'm selfish, confused, bitter old. They're going to make me the villain because I finally stopped paying for the role. I wiped my cheeks with the back of my hand. But I can't keep buying love from people who keep raising the price. For the first time that day, my chest loosened. Not healed, not peaceful, but lighter. When I finally stood, the sky had turned purple at the edges. I looked at Samuel's name one more time and whispered, I hope you understand. Then, as clearly as if memory itself had answered, I heard his old voice in my heart. Destiny, baby. I've been waiting for you to understand. I drove home in the dark, with my phone still off. For 24 hours, I did not answer a single call. Not Marcus, not Tasha, not Derek, not Monica. Not even the relatives who started texting before bedtime, saying they had heard I was acting strange. I made tea. I locked my doors. I placed Lauren's card beside the phone. Then I sat at my kitchen table and watched the silent screen fill with missed calls after I turned it back on the next morning. For once, their panic did not become my emergency. The family ATM had closed, and every single one of them was about to find out what they had built their lives on. They came to my house the next evening like collectors arriving for payment. I saw the headlights first. One car pulled into the driveway too fast. Then another stopped at the curb. Doors opened. Voices rose before anyone reached the porch. Through the front window, I saw Marcus walking ahead of everyone, shoulders tight, phone in his hand. Tasha followed behind him, wiping her face like she had been crying on purpose the whole ride over. Derek came next, jaw-locked, eyes hard. Monica stayed close to Marcus, her arms crossed against her chest. Brianna was not with them. That was the only mercy. I stood in the hallway for a moment with my hand resting on the small table where Samuel used to leave his keys. My heart beat hard, but not wild. Lauren had told me to keep my phone nearby. Patricia had told me not to be alone if I felt unsafe. I had done the best I could. My phone was recording in my sweater pocket, and Mrs. Alvarez from next door knew to call me in 20 minutes if she did not see them leave calmly. When Marcus knocked, it was not a knock. It was a demand. I opened the door. "Mom," he said, stepping forward before I invited him in. "What is going on?" I moved aside slowly. "Come in." They entered my living room like they still owned the air inside it. Tasha looked around first, not at me but at the house. That hurt more than I expected. Her eyes moved over the fireplace, the old piano Samuel bought secondhand, the framed family photographs, the china cabinet. I wondered if she saw memories or market value. Derek did not sit. Marcus did not either. Monica perched on the edge of the couch, lips pressed thin. I walked to the armchair Samuel had loved and remained standing beside it. "Sit down," I said. Marcus scoffed. "We're not here for tea, Mom." "No," I said. "You're here because the money stopped." Tasha gasped like I had slapped her. "How can you say that?" "Because none of you asked if I was all right. Not once." Derek gave a short laugh. Miss Destiny, with respect, people don't usually ask if someone is all right after that person sabotages their entire family. "Sabotages," I repeated. "You cut off phone lines," Monica said. "You canceled payments. You made people look irresponsible." I looked at her. I did not make anyone look irresponsible. I stopped paying for responsibilities that were not mine. Marcus ran a hand over his face. "My car payment bounced, Mom. Do you understand what that means for my work?" "I understand exactly what a bounced payment means." "You're acting like a different person." "No," I said quietly. "I am acting like the person I should have been acting like years ago." Tasha started crying then. Real or not, I could not tell anymore, and that was a grief of its own. "Mom," I was humiliated in the grocery store. People were behind me. Brianna needed food. "Brianna has food," I said. "And if Brianna ever truly needs anything, she can call me herself." Tasha's face hardened beneath the tears. "So now, I'm a bad mother. I did not say that. You didn't have to." Derek stepped closer to the coffee table. "This is ridiculous. Whatever lawyer or banker got in your ear, they don't know this family. We handle things together." I almost smiled at that. Together. For 3 years together had meant my account and their expenses. I turned and picked up the thick folder from the side table. It was heavy in my hands. I had arranged everything in order: statements, charges, screenshots, loan papers, cancellation records, and notes. Not because I wanted drama, because I wanted clarity. I placed the folder on the coffee table. The sound it made was small, but everyone looked at it. "What is that?" Marcus asked. "The reason I closed the accounts." No one moved. I opened the folder. "Let's start with the car," I said. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Mom, you asked me to co-sign temporarily. You said you would refinance after a few commissions. Instead, I paid not only the car payment, but late fees, insurance drafts, and add-ons I never agreed to. I was going to fix that." "When?" He said nothing. I turned the page. "Tasha, you asked to use my card for Brianna's school needs. That became clothing, furniture, beauty supplies, restaurant charges, and shopping I was never asked about." Tasha's mouth opened, but I did not stop. "Monica, your email is connected to subscriptions and installment payments drafted from my card." Monica went pale. "I thought Marcus handled that." "And Derek," I said, looking at him last, "there are charges connected to your number, your email, your contractor, your resort deposit, and a business funding application I never authorized." His face changed by a fraction. That was enough. Marcus stepped toward the folder. "You've been spying on us." I looked at my son. "No. I've been reading my own statements." The room went silent. I lifted the loan document and placed it on top of the pile. "This has my name on it, my address, my financial information, and an electronic signature that looks like mine, but is not mine." Tasha whispered, "What document?" I glanced at her. For the first time, I wondered how much she truly knew about the loan. Not enough to absolve her, but maybe enough to fear Derek's silence, It is tied to a business funding line connected to Marcus and Derek, I said. Derek's voice sharpened. Careful, Miss Destiny. That word careful sent a chill through me. Not because I was afraid of him, because I finally heard the threat beneath the politeness he had used for years. No, Derek, I said. You be careful. His eyes widened. I pulled out another sheet. The total I have documented so far is over $260,000. Tasha sat down as if her knees gave out. Monica covered her mouth. Marcus stared at me. That's impossible. It is not impossible. It is printed. He shook his head. That includes gifts. Help. Things you agreed to. Some of it does, I said. And I am not asking for every dollar I willingly gave out of love, but I am done pretending everything was love. Tasha cried harder. Mom, please. We were struggling. Then why did you call me the family ATM? The silence that followed was the loudest sound I had ever heard in that living room. Marcus froze. Monica looked at Derek. Tasha stopped crying. Derek's jaw flexed. I reached into the folder and pulled out the screenshots Brianna had sent me. I did not say Brianna's name. I would not put her in the line of fire. I have the group messages, I said. I have the conversations about using my loneliness, about using Brianna, about making the sale of my house look like concern, about getting me to sign papers in Florida. Marcus's face drained of color. Tasha whispered, Who sent you those? I held her eyes. That is not the question you should be asking. Derek pointed at me. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand perfectly. No, you don't, he snapped. You're blowing up your own family over money. I stepped closer to the coffee table. No, Derek. I am protecting myself from people who decided my love made me easy. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then Marcus spoke low and angry. You sent this to a lawyer, didn't you? Yes. Tasha looked stricken. Mom, and to the bank's fraud department, I said. Derek cursed under his breath. Monica stood quickly. Fraud Destiny, that's serious. Yes, I said. It is. Marcus's anger shifted into fear. I could see it happen. His eyes moved from me to the folder, from the folder to Derek, then back to me. Mom, listen, he said softer now. This got out of hand. Nobody meant, do not finish that sentence unless you are ready to tell the truth. He closed his mouth. I looked at each of them. My son, my daughter, my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law. People I had fed, held, helped, defended. People I had kept making excuses for while they built plans around my weakness. I am not reopening any account, I said. I am not paying any more bills. I am not selling my house. I am not going to Florida. I am not signing anything. And from this moment on, no one uses my name, my credit, my card, my bank account, or my griefs. Tasha began to sob again, but this time the sound did not pull me toward apology. It made me sad. That was all. Marcus looked at the floor. Derek looked like he wanted to argue, but was calculating the risk. Monica would not meet my eyes. I closed the folder. You can leave now. Marcus looked up. Mom, we need to talk about this. We just did. This isn't over, Derek said. I picked up my phone from my pocket and held it where he could see the screen. It is recorded. His face went still. No one spoke after that. One by one, they walked out of my house. Tasha paused at the door, as if waiting for me to chase her to soften to become the mother who would rather be wounded than disliked. I did not move. When the door closed behind them, I locked it. Then I leaned my forehead against the wood and let one tear fall. Not because I regretted what I had done, because even when you finally stand up for yourself, it still hurts to see who was willing to knock you down. By the next morning, I was no longer just a mother who had closed her accounts. I had become a story. And the painful thing about stories is that the first person to tell one often gets believed. Tasha started with my sister Aunt Vivian. I knew because Vivian called me at 9:14 before I had even finished my coffee. "Destiny," she said, using the careful voice people use when they think someone might shatter baby. "What is going on over there?" I looked out the kitchen window at the bird feeder Samuel had hung years before. 2 cardinals sat on the edge, bright red against the gray morning. "What did Tasha tell you?" I asked. Vivian sighed. "She said you've been acting strange, paranoid. She said you cut everybody off without warning and accused them of things you don't understand." There it was. Not hurt, not betrayal, paranoid. "I understand more than they wish I did," I said. Vivian was quiet for a moment. "You know I love you." "I know, and I know children can be selfish. Lord knows mine have tested me too. But fraud lawyers' frozen accounts. Destiny, that is a lot. Are you sure you're not letting grief make you harsher than you mean to be?" I closed my eyes. Grief. They had found another word to wrap around my throat. First, I was generous. Then I was confused. Then I was lonely. Now I was grieving too much to know my own mind. "I have documentees," I said. "I'm not saying you don't. First I was generous. Then I was confused. Then I was lonely. Now I was grieving too much to know my own mind. I have documents," I said. "I'm not saying you don't. But you're saying I should soften it. I'm saying family is still family." I almost laughed, but it would have come out like a sob. Family is still family. People said that when they wanted the injured person to carry the burden of peace. They rarely said it to the ones doing the injuring. By noon, 3 more relatives had called. A cousin in Raleigh said Marcus told him I was being influenced by some lawyer trying to stir up trouble. A church friend asked whether I needed help managing bills because Tasha had mentioned I was overwhelmed. A former neighbor sent a text saying, "Heard there's been some confusion with the kids. Praying for healing." Confusion. That word followed me around the house like smoke. There had been no confusion when my card was charged. No confusion when they used my account for their phone plan. No confusion when Derek talked about power of attorney in a garage. No confusion when they called me the family ATM. But now that I had closed the doors, suddenly everyone wanted to talk about confusion. Marcus called me 14 times that day. I did not answer. His voicemails changed flavor as the hours passed. The first was angry. "Mom, this isn't how adults handle things." The second was wounded. "I can't believe you'd embarrass your own son like this." The third was almost sweet. "Can we just talk, please? I miss how we used to be." That one hurt the most because I missed it too. Or maybe I missed what I thought it was. Tasha sent long text messages, paragraphs. She wrote about motherhood stress, Brianna Bill's shame, and how she never meant to make me feel used. Then buried near the bottom, she wrote, "If you really loved us, you wouldn't involve banks and lawyers before giving us a chance to fix it." I read that sentence several times. A chance to fix it. How many chances had I given them without calling those chances by name? Every bill paid quietly. Every question I swallowed. Every apology I offered for needing answers. Every time I let them turn my concern into guilt. Derek did not call after learning I had recorded him. Instead, he tried the bank. Patricia called me personally. "Mrs. Coleman, I wanted you to know we received a call from a Derek Reed attempting to discuss account access and recent cancellations." My hand tightened around the phone. "What did he say?" "He stated he was assisting you with family financial management." I felt something cold move through me. Assisting me? Yes. He also implied you may have made changes you did not fully understand. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table. What did you tell him? That we could not release or discuss any information. The account notes worked as intended. Thank you, I whispered. After we hung up, I stayed there for a long time, staring at Samuel's empty chair. That was when the exhaustion hit. Not just tiredness, not the kind a nap could mend. This was the weariness of being forced to prove your pain was real to people who benefited from doubting it. I began to understand why so many women never speak up. Because the moment they do, the trial starts. Not for the people who harm them. For them. Were you too emotional? Too old? Too bitter? Too lonely? Too confused? Did you misunderstand? Did you exaggerate? Did you provoke it? Did you fail to communicate? Wouldn't a good mother forgive? By evening, I had almost convinced myself to call Tasha. Almost. I stood in the den with my phone in my hand, staring at her name. The old urge rose in me like a tide. Smooth it over. Stop the bleeding. Tell everyone you only needed a pause. Keep the family from splitting. Be the mother. Be the bigger person. My thumb hovered above the call button. Then I looked at Samuel's desk. The folder was still there. So were the screenshots. So was the printed document with a signature that was not mine. Truth has a way of looking plain when emotions try to make it complicated. I set the phone down. The next morning, Lauren called. I need you to come by the office if you're able, she said. Is something wrong? Not wrong, she said carefully. But there's something Samuel left in your file. I think it's time you had it. My breath caught. Samuel. Yes. I had not heard his name spoken in that formal office tone since the estate paperwork after his funeral. An hour later, I was sitting across from Lauren Mitchell in her conference room, hands folded tightly in my lap. Outside the window downtown, Charlotte moved along as if my world had not cracked open. Cars passed. People carried coffee cups. A man in a gray suit laughed into his phone. Lauren opened a drawer and removed a cream-colored envelope. It had my name on it. Destiny. Not Mrs. Coleman. Not a legal label. Just Destiny, written in Samuel's hand. For a moment, I could not touch it. His handwriting had always leaned slightly to the right, strong and neat, with a little hook on the Y. I had seen that handwriting on grocery lists, birthday cards, notes left on the refrigerator church offering envelopes, and once on a napkin that said, "Stop worrying." I already paid the light bill. Now it sat in front of me like a voice from another life. Lauren's own voice softened. Samuel gave this to me during one of his last estate updates. He said, if certain concerns ever came up, I should give it to you. What concerns? She hesitated. Concerns about financial pressure from the children. The room blurred. I put one hand over my mouth. He knew. He suspected some things, Lauren said. He didn't tell me everything, but he was very clear that he wanted safeguards in place for you. I looked down at the envelope again. A strange feeling moved through me. Grief, yes, but also something like being held. All this time, I had thought I was standing up alone, and Samuel, even gone, had left a handrail in the dark. Lauren slid a tissue box toward me. You don't have to read it here. But I knew I did. If I took that envelope home, I might sit with it for hours, afraid to open the last piece of him. I might place it beside his photograph and let fear turn it sacred. But I did not need sacred right then. I needed Samuel. So I picked up the envelope with trembling fingers and opened it. The paper inside smelled faintly of nothing, which somehow hurt worse than if it had smelled like him. I unfolded the letter. My eyes found the first line. My destiny. If you are reading this, it means the softness I loved most in you has been used against you. I made a sound I could not hold back. Lauren looked away to give me privacy. I kept reading, though tears spilled onto the page. Samuel wrote that he knew I would always choose the children first. He wrote that my heart was generous, but generosity without protection could become a wound. He wrote that Marcus had already shown signs of borrowing too much, promising too easily, and hiding consequences. He wrote that Tasha had learned, even as a young woman, how to cry before telling the whole truth. But he also wrote that he loved them. That was the part that broke me. He did not write like a bitter father. He wrote like a man who saw clearly and still loved deeply. A man trying to protect his wife without poisoning her against her children. Then I reached the line that made my hands go still. You are their mother destiny. You are not their bank, not their backup plan, and not the price they pay for avoiding adulthood. I pressed the letter to my chest. For the first time since the calls started, since the messages, since the accusations, since everyone tried to make me doubt myself, I felt the ground return beneath my feet. Samuel had known my weakness, and he had not judged me for it. He had loved me enough to prepare for the day I would need permission to save myself. I read Samuel's letter 3 times in Lauren Mitchell's conference room. The first time I cried so hard, the words blurred into shadows. The second time, I heard his voice. The third time, I understood why he had written it. My destiny. If you are reading this, it means the softness I loved most in you has been used against you. I had to stop after that first line because it felt like Samuel had reached across, death touched my face, and named the wound I had been too ashamed to name myself. Softness. That was what I had been punished for. Not stupidity, not carelessness, not weakness. Softness. The part of me that made soup when someone was sick. The part that remembered everybody's favorite cake. The part that kept extra blankets in the hall closet because guests might get cold. The part that answered the phone even when my stomach tightened before I saw the name. Samuel had loved that part of me. My children had learned to use it. I kept reading. I know you, baby. You will tell yourself it is not that bad. You will say they are stressed, or young, or trying, or grieving in their own way. You will tell yourself a mother can endure almost anything if it keeps her family together. But a family held together by your silence is not being held together. It is being held over you. I pressed my fingertips to my lips. Across the table, Lauren sat quietly pretending to review another document so I could have privacy. But I could feel her stillness. She knew what this letter was doing to me. Samuel wrote about our early years, how we had stretched one paycheck until it screamed, how we had bought Marcus's first baseball glove secondhand and told him it had history so he would not feel poor, how we had stayed up late sewing a torn dress for Tasha's school concert because there was no money for a new one. Then his words turned heavier. I have seen things I did not want to see. I have seen Marcus borrow and delay and smile his way around consequences. I have seen Tasha discover that tears can move a room faster than truth. I am not writing this because I do not love our children. I love them more than my own breath. But love must not blind us to what people practice becoming. That sentence made me lower the page. What people practice becoming. I thought of Marcus saying he would pay me back. I thought of Tasha using Brianna's name like a key. I thought of Derek's calm voice when he said I could not take my money with me. I thought of Monica's silence, soft and polished, covering over her comfort. They had practiced, and I had helped them practice by calling it love. Lauren finally spoke. Destiny there is more than the letter. I looked up. She opened a folder and turned it toward me. Samuel updated several estate protections before he passed. At the time, he said he wanted to make sure no one could pressure you into major financial decisions while you were grieving. I stared at the documents without understanding them at first. Legal language had a way of turning human fear into careful paragraphs. Lauren pointed to one section. This provision concerns the house. It says the home cannot be transferred, sold below market value, placed into a family-controlled trust, or used as collateral for another person's benefit, unless you initiate the process voluntarily in writing with independent counsel present. I swallowed. Independent counsel. Not Marcus standing over me with printed numbers. Not Derek calling it emergency planning. Not Tasha crying about Brianna. Not Monica offering to help me sort closets. Lauren continued. There is also a capacity protection clause. It does not prevent a legitimate medical determination if one is ever needed, but it makes it much harder for a family member to casually claim you are incompetent for financial convenience. For financial convenience? I repeated. Lauren's mouth tightened. I have seen it happen. The room felt colder. What else did Samuel do? He named backup fiduciaries who are not Marcus or Tasha. He made clear that any power of attorney must be executed through this office or another licensed attorney you personally choose with direct confirmation from you alone. My throat closed. Samuel had known. Not everything. Maybe not the screenshots the card charges, the forged-looking signature, the plan for Florida. But he had known enough to leave walls around me before I realized anyone was trying to get in. Lauren turned another page. This is why the Florida plan would have failed legally if they tried to push it through properly. But that does not mean they could not have confused you, pressured you, or gotten you to sign something messy enough to create a fight. I looked at her. So, the safeguards protected me from them. They protected you from anyone who might try to benefit from your grief, your trust, or your age. My age. I had never hated that word before. Aging had not frightened me when Samuel was alive. We used to joke about becoming the old couple who argued over thermostat settings and split one dessert because we were watching our sugar. Growing older with him had felt like a privilege. Growing older without him had made me a target. I looked back at the letter. Samuel's handwriting waited for me. There is something else, Destiny. I did not tell you because I was sick. And I did not want your last months with me to be filled with disappointment in our son. Years ago, Marcus came to me for money and asked me not to tell you. He said it was temporary. He said he was ashamed. I helped him once, then again. The third time, I told him no. My hands went numb. Marcus had borrowed from Samuel before the car, before the credit application, before the overdraft, before I became the family ATM. Samuel had seen the beginning. I kept reading, though every word hurt. When I told him no, he became angry in a way I had never seen from him. Not loud. Worse than loud. Entitled. He spoke as if our savings were a family resource he had simply been denied access to. That day frightened me, not because I stopped loving him, but because I recognized a hunger in him that love alone would not cure. I covered my face with the letter. A sound came out of me, low and broken. All those years, I had thought Marcus changed after his father died. I had thought grief had made him reckless. I had thought maybe losing Samuel had cracked something in our family. But Samuel had already seen it. He had carried that knowledge while he was dying, and he had spared me because he thought he was protecting my heart. For a moment, I felt angry at him, not the kind of anger that cancels love, the kind that rises because love had hidden pain from you. I wanted to ask him why he had not told me, why he had let me walk blind into a storm he had already seen forming, why he had left me with clues instead of the whole truth. Then I read the next lines. Forgive me if silence was the wrong choice. I was trying to leave you peace. But if peace ever becomes a cage, break it. Even if the children cry, even if relatives talk, even if they call you selfish, especially then. Especially then. I folded forward over the table and wept. Lauren did not interrupt. She simply placed another tissue near my hand. When I could breathe again, I sat back and looked at the documents, the letter, the protections, the careful structure Samuel had built in the final chapter of his life. He was still taking care of me, I whispered. Lauren's voice was gentle. Yes, but he also wanted you to take care of yourself. That was harder to hear, because being protected by Samuel felt familiar. Being protected by paperwork felt strange but manageable. But protecting myself, standing in the center of my own life without apologizing, that felt like a language I should have learned decades ago. I signed the updated confirmations Lauren prepared. Not transfers, not surrender, not anything that gave away control. Documents that clarified my wishes, strengthened my protections, and made my voice harder to erase. When I left her office, I did not drive home right away. I sat in my car in the parking lot with Samuel's letter open on my lap. Sunlight fell across the page. The ink looked softer there. I read the final paragraph one last time. Destiny. You are not cruel for having limits. You are not selfish for keeping what we built. You are not less of a mother because you refuse to become a bank. If our children come back to you with truth, humility, and love, meet them as their mother. But do not meet them at the counter window of your own life. I smiled through my tears. The counter window? Only Samuel could make me cry and almost laugh in the same breath. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. For years, I had believed my love had to be open-handed to be real. But sitting there in my car, holding the last guidance my husband had left me, I understood something new. An open hand can bless, but it can also bleed. And mine had been bleeding long enough. I did not invite my family to my house again. That house had held enough of their voices, enough of their accusations, enough of their eyes moving across my furniture, as if every room had a price tag hanging from the ceiling. If there was going to be one final conversation about money, truth, and consequences, it would not happen beneath the roof Samuel and I had built our life under. It would happen in Lauren Mitchell's office. Neutral walls, legal pads, glass doors, witnesses nearby. No kitchen table where Tasha could cry beside the chair she had once sat in as a child. No living room where Marcus could pace and make himself look like the injured son. No doorway Derek could stand in like he owned the air. No framed family photographs staring at me begging me to remember only the good. Lauren sent the invitation by email, not me. That was important. The message was formal, simple, and impossible to twist. It stated that a meeting had been scheduled regarding financial matters involving my account's disputed charges and documents requiring review. It made clear that attendance was voluntary, but further communication should go through Lauren's office. Marcus called me within 10 minutes. I did not answer. Tasha texted Mom, "Why are you doing this through a lawyer?" "We're your children." I did not answer that either, because by then, I understood something I should have learned sooner. Some people use access to you as a way to avoid accountability. If they can get your voice on the phone, they can soften it. If they can get you alone, they can pressure you. If they can make you feel like a bad mother, they can pull you right back to the place where your own pain has no chair at the table. So I let Lauren be the chair. The meeting was on a Thursday afternoon. I arrived early wearing the navy suit again. This time, it did not feel like armor I had borrowed from my old self. It felt like mine. Lauren greeted me in the lobby. "You ready?" she asked. "No," I said honestly. "But I'm not running. That is enough." She led me into a larger conference room. A pitcher of water sat in the center of the table. There were folders arranged in front of each chair. Mine was thicker. Lauren's was thickest. I sat beside her, not across from her. That mattered too. At 2:58, Marcus arrived with Monica. His face looked tired, but I could not tell if it was from guilt, fear, or inconvenience. Monica avoided my eyes and sat beside him, folding her hands so tightly her knuckles turned pale. Tasha came next. She looked smaller than usual, her makeup carefully done, but not enough to hide the swelling around her eyes. Derek walked in behind her, wearing a dark jacket and the same hard expression he had worn in my living room. Brianna came last. My heart almost stopped when I saw her. She stepped in quietly, wearing jeans and a plain sweater, her backpack hanging from one shoulder. Tasha turned around sharply. "Brianna, why are you here?" Brianna looked at Lauren, then at me. "I asked to come." Derek's face darkened. "This is not for children." "I am 17, she said. Her voice shook, but she did not step back. "And you all put me in it." No one had an answer for that. Lauren gestured toward the chairs. "Please sit." They did. For a few seconds, all we heard was the low hum of the building's air conditioning. Then Lauren began. "This meeting is to clarify Mrs. Coleman's position regarding financial access disputed charges and future boundaries. It is not a family therapy session. It is not a debate over whether Mrs. Coleman is entitled to control her own money. She is." Derek shifted in his chair. Lauren glanced at him once and continued. "Mrs. Coleman has closed, authorized user access, canceled automatic payments for expenses not belonging to her, frozen her credit and not belonging to her, frozen her credit, and formally disputed certain documents and transactions. Those decisions are final." Tasha looked at me. Final, I met her eyes. Final. Her lips trembled. "Mom?" "No," Lauren said calmly. "Mrs. Coleman will speak after I finish, and formally disputed certain documents and transactions. Those decisions are final." Tasha looked at me. "Final." I met her eyes. "Final." Her lips trembled. "Mom?" "No," Lauren said calmly. "Mrs. Coleman will speak after I finish." It was the first time in years I had heard someone stop my daughter's tears from taking over a room. Lauren opened the first folder. "There will be no more authorized cards, no joint accounts, no automatic payments for adult children's spouses, household expenses, vehicles, vacations, subscriptions, furniture insurance, phones, or business activities. No one is permitted to use Mrs. Coleman's name, credit, personal information, or signature for any loan application, account, or payment arrangement." Marcus rubbed his forehead. Derek leaned back, jaw tight. Lauren placed a copy of the business funding application on the table. "This document is under review. Mrs. Coleman states she did not sign it, did not authorize it, and did not knowingly participate in the business funding arrangement connected to Mr. Coleman and Mr. Reed." Marcus's head snapped toward Derek. Derek said, "That is not accurate." Lauren looked at him. "Then you will have an opportunity to present documentation through the appropriate process." "I'm saying this is being exaggerated," he said. I finally spoke. Then explain my signature. Derek looked at me. No smooth answer came. Marcus said quietly, Mom, I thought you understood it was connected to helping me get started. No, I said. I understood you asked for car help. I understood Derek asked for home repairs. I understood Tasha asked for Brianna's needs. I did not understand that my name was being used for a business arrangement. Tasha turned to Marcus. You told me it was temporary. He looked away. The crack in the room widened. Lauren slid another page forward. The documented amount of payments, charges, drafts, and disputed financial activity connected to Mrs. Coleman's accounts exceeds $260,000 over the period reviewed. Monica made a small sound. Tasha whispered, That can't be right. It is printed, I said. The phrase felt familiar now. Stronger each time I used it. Lauren continued. Mrs. Coleman is willing to separate voluntary gifts from disputed charges and unauthorized uses. However, repayment must begin under a formal agreement. If no agreement is reached, the disputed file will continue through the bank's fraud investigation process and may be referred further. Derek sat forward. So, this is blackmail? Lauren's eyes did not move. No, it is a choice. Marcus's face had gone pale. What kind of repayment? He asked. Structured, Lauren said. Written. Legally enforceable. Based on what each party benefited from or participated in. Monica finally spoke, her voice thin. I didn't know it was that much. I looked at her. But you knew some of it was wrong. She looked down. That silence answered. Tasha began to cry again, but this time the tears came without performance. They looked confused, frightened, almost young. Mom, I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to believe her. That was the terrible part. A mother can hear lies from her child and still search for the baby she once held inside them. I believe there were times you didn't think of it as hurting me. I said, but that does not mean I was not hurt. She covered her mouth. Derek muttered, This is insane. Brianna stood up. Everyone turned. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was clear enough. It's not insane. Tasha wiped her face. Bree, sit down. No. Brianna looked at her mother, then at Derek, then at Marcus and Monica. You all talked about Grandma like she wasn't a person. You talked about what would make her give in. You talked about using me. Tasha's face crumpled. Baby. No, Brianna said. Don't baby me right now. The words cut through the room. I sent her the screenshots, Brianna said. Marcus closed his eyes. Derek stared at her. You had no right. Brianna flinched, but she did not sit. I had more right to tell the truth than you had to hide it. For the first time, I saw Derek truly lose control of his expression. Not shouting, not yet. But his face, not shouting, not yet. But his face, owed something raw and ugly. Lauren spoke before he could. Mr. Reed, choose your next words carefully. He leaned back. Brianna turned to me then, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Grundy Mia. I didn't want to break the family, owed something raw and ugly. Lauren spoke before he could. Mr. Reed, choose your next words carefully. He leaned back. Brianna turned to me then, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't want to break the family. I stood and walked around the table. Nobody stopped me. I took her hands in mine. You did not break this family, I said. You showed where it was already broken. She cried then, and I held her right there in Lauren's conference room, in front of every adult who should have protected both of us. When I sat down again, I looked at my children. "I am still your mother," I said. "That has not changed. But I am no longer your bank. I am no longer your emergency plan. I am no longer the woman you can frighten, flatter, or guilt into paying for your choices." Marcus's eyes shone, but he said nothing. Tasha looked ruined. Monica stared at the table. Derek looked angry enough to burn the room down with silence. Lauren closed the folder. "You will each receive copies of the proposed repayment and communication terms. You may review them independently. From this point forward, financial contact with Mrs. Coleman goes through this office, unless she chooses otherwise." For the first time in my life, I watched my family realize that my no had witnesses. Not just emotion, not just pain. Structure. They left quietly. No hugs, no apologies, no promises. But as Brianna passed me, she squeezed my hand once. That small squeeze carried more love than all the money I had ever spent trying to buy peace. And for the first time, I understood that truth does not always heal a room immediately. Sometimes it simply turns on the light. Truth does not always bring peace right away. Sometimes truth walks into a room, turns on the light, and shows everyone how much dust has been sitting on the furniture. Then people start coughing, pointing, denying, and blaming the person who opened the curtains. That was what happened after the meeting at Lauren's office. For the first few days, nobody called me directly. Not Marcus, not Tasha, not Monica. Not even Derek, who I knew hated silence unless he was the one using it as a weapon. But silence does not mean nothing is happening. I heard pieces through relatives who thought they were helping through one strained phone call from Brianna and eventually through Monica herself. The family did not fall apart all at once. It cracked in different places with different sounds. Derek blamed Tasha first. According to Brianna, he came home furious after the meeting and slammed a cabinet so hard a glass fell and broke in the sink. He said Tasha should have kept Brianna out of grown business. He said if Tasha had controlled her daughter better, none of those screenshots would have reached me. Controlled her daughter. When Brianna told me that her voice was flat in a way that frightened me more than tears. "Grandma," she said, "I don't think I want to talk to Mom right now." "You don't have to force yourself." I told her, "But is that wrong?" "No, baby. Sometimes distance is how your heart catches its breath." Tasha blamed Marcus. She said he was the one who kept asking for bigger help. He was the one who needed the car. He was the one who brought Derek into business plans. He was the one who made everything feel urgent. Marcus, in return, said Tasha had no problem using my card when it suited her. He said her tears had cost me more money than his car ever did. They all began doing what people do when consequences arrive. They searched for a smaller, guilty person standing nearby. Marcus called Lauren before he called me. That told me plenty. He wanted to know whether repayment could keep the disputed file from moving forward. He wanted numbers, terms, deadlines. He did not ask, at least not then, whether I was eating, sleeping, or breathing through the hole he had helped tear in me. But he did sign the first repayment agreement. I found out 2 weeks later that he sold the black car. The same car he had honked in my driveway like a prize. The same car that was supposed to change everything. The same car whose payments had quietly pulled money from my life month after month. When I saw him driving an older gray sedan at a stoplight one afternoon, my first feeling was not satisfaction. It was grief. Not because I felt sorry for the car, because I remembered the little boy who used to line up toy cars on the living room rug and tell me which one he would buy me when he became rich. That child had been real. So was the man at the stoplight, staring straight ahead, pretending not to see me. Both truths lived in the same body. That is one of the hardest parts of family pain. The person who hurt you is not only the hurt, they are also every birthday candle, every school photo, every fever you cooled with a wet cloth, every prayer you whispered over them when they did not know you were awake. Monica came to see me before Tasha did. She called first, which surprised me. Her voice was quiet. "Destiny, may I come by for a few minutes?" "Alone?" I almost said no. Then I said yes, because I wanted to see whether her face would carry truth without Marcus beside it. She arrived on a rainy Tuesday afternoon, wearing a beige coat and no makeup. I had never seen her look so plain. Not ugly, not broken, just unprepared to perform. I did not offer coffee. That was intentional. We sat in the living room with the rain tapping softly against the windows. Monica held her purse in her lap like a shield. "I owe you an apology," she said. I waited. She swallowed. I knew some things were wrong. There it was. Not everything, not the full confession, but a door opening. "What things?" I asked. She looked at the floor. The subscriptions, some shopping, the installment accounts. "I knew your card was connected to more than you realized. Why didn't you tell me?" Her eyes filled, but she did not cry. "Because it benefited me. I appreciated that more than tears." She continued, "Marcus always said he would fix it. Tasha always said you didn't mind helping. Derek acted like everybody was already doing it, so why should I be the only one making trouble?" And she took a shaky breath. I liked the comfort, the nicer things, the feeling that if something got tight, there was a cushion somewhere. "A cushion," I repeated. Her face flushed. "I know how that sounds. Do you?" She looked at me then. "Yes." I sat with that for a moment. Monica had never been the loudest person in the room. That had made it easy to mistake her silence for innocence. But silence can be a very comfortable hiding place when someone else is doing the asking. "I don't think you are the mastermind," I said. She closed her eyes briefly as if relieved. "But silence can hurt people too." Her eyes opened. "You watched me become smaller under the weight of all of you, and you stayed quiet because my burden made your life easier." She began to cry then, but softly. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I believe you are sorry now," I said. "But I need you to understand something. I cannot embrace you back into comfort just because confession made you uncomfortable." She nodded slowly. For the first time, I saw Monica not as my daughter-in-law trying to stay polished, but as a woman who had made selfish choices and was finally sitting in the cost of them. When she left, I did not feel healed. I felt clearer. Tasha took longer. At first, she sent messages through Brianna, which only made things worse. She asked if Brianna had spoken to me. She asked if I was still punishing everyone. She asked if I seemed angry. Brianna stopped answering. That silence shook Tasha more than anything I had done. A mother can ignore her own mother's pain if she has trained herself long enough. But when her child looks at her with disappointment and refuses to soften, the mirror changes. One evening, Brianna called me from her bedroom. "Mom cried today," she said. "What happened?" I told her I didn't want to be used as a reason for asking you for money ever again. My chest tightened. What did she say? At first she said she never used me. Then she got quiet. Then she asked if I really felt that way. "And what did you tell her?" I said yes. There was a long silence between us. Then Brianna whispered, "I think that hurt her. Sometimes the truth hurts before it teaches," I said. 3 days later, Tasha texted me directly. "I'm not ready to talk without crying or saying the wrong thing. but I know I hurt you. I don't know how to fix it. I read that message at my kitchen table. My first instinct was to call her immediately, to comfort, to mother, to say, "It's all right, baby." But it was not all right, and she was not a child, so I wrote back carefully. You can start by not asking me to make your pain easier. You can start with truth therapy and time. She did not answer for several hours. Then she wrote, "Okay." One word, small but not nothing. I spoke with Lauren before making any decisions about family contact. Together, we created terms that were not legal threats but personal boundaries. No private financial discussions, no requests for money, no comments about my house, no mention of reopening accounts, no guilt through Brianna, no visits without asking first. If anyone wanted to rebuild family therapy, had to be part of it. When I sent the message to Marcus and Tasha, my hands shook. Not because the words were cruel, because they were new. I told them I loved them. I told them I was willing to leave a door open for relationship. But I also told them the door would no longer open into my bank account. I wrote, I am willing to meet you as my children. I am not willing to meet you as creditors, debtors, planners, or dependents. Love cannot require me to be drained in order to be accepted. Marcus did not respond that day. Tasha sent, I understand. I did not know if she did. Not fully, but understanding like healing sometimes begins as a sentence before it becomes a life. That season was painful. Holidays were strange. Sunday afternoons felt hollow. Some relatives still believed I had gone too far. Derek stayed angry. Marcus stayed distant. Tasha moved between remorse and resentment like someone walking on a sore ankle. But I did not go back. That was the victory nobody clapped for. I did not reopen the accounts. I did not pay the missed bills. I did not rescue Marcus from the consequences of selling his car. I did not comfort Monica more than she had comforted me. I did not call Derek to smooth over his pride. I did not ask Brianna to forgive before she was ready. And most importantly, I did not confuse a broken pattern with a broken family. A broken pattern can feel like a death because everybody has to learn who they are without it. For years, I had been the quiet center holding everyone else up. Now I was learning to stand without being used as support. And if my family wanted to stand with me again, they would have to come empty-handed. No bills, no plans, no guilt, just truth. 1 year after I closed the accounts, I bought myself yellow roses. Not because it was Mother's Day. Not because someone had forgotten me and tried to fix it with flowers. Not because Marcus had used my own credit card to make himself look thoughtful. I bought them because it was Friday and I wanted something beautiful on my kitchen table. That became my little ritual. Every Friday morning after breakfast, I drove to the small flower stand near the farmer's market and picked out whatever made me smile. Some weeks it was roses, some weeks tulips. Once it was a bundle of wildflowers that looked like they had been gathered by a child running through a field. I put them in the blue glass vase Samuel bought me in Savannah years ago, and each time I filled it with water, I felt like I was saying something to myself. I am still here. For a long time, my life had been organized around other people's needs. Who was short this month? Who needed help? Who was upset? Who might stop calling if I said no? But after everything happened, after the accounts closed, after the lawyers and repayment agreements and painful silences, I had to learn how to ask myself a question that felt almost selfish at first. Destiny, what do you need? At the beginning, I did not know how to answer. So I started small. I joined a book club at the library on Wednesday afternoons. The first week, I almost turned around in the parking lot. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, telling myself I was too old to walk into a room full of strangers and pretend to be interesting. Then I remembered Samuel's letter. You are not less of a mother because you refuse to become a bank. So I went in. The women were kind. Not perfect, not magical, just kind. We read novels, argued gently about endings, drank weak coffee from paper cups, and laughed more than I expected. Nobody asked me to cover their bill. Nobody called me selfish for having an opinion. Nobody measured my love by what I could provide. It felt strange. Then it felt good. In the spring, I took my first solo trip in years. Savannah. I chose it because Samuel and I had once promised to go back, but never did. I packed too many clothes, printed my hotel reservation, even though it was on my phone, and drove with gospel music playing low in the car. The first night, I walked along the river by myself. Couples passed me. Families took pictures. Tourists carried paper bags and cups of sweet tea. For a moment, grief touched my shoulder. Then the breeze came off the water, soft and warm, and I whispered, "We made it back, Samuel." I ate dinner alone at a restaurant with white tablecloths. I ordered shrimp and grits peach cobbler and a glass of iced tea with lemon. When the waitress asked if anyone would be joining me, I smiled and said, "No, it's just me tonight." And for once, just me did not sound like loneliness. It sounded like peace. When I came home, I began volunteering twice a month at a community center that helped older women facing financial abuse. I did not tell my whole story the first day. I was still tender around the edges, but when I sat across from women who whispered, "It's my son," or "I didn't want to get my daughter in trouble," or they said I was confused, I knew exactly where their shame lived. I would take their hands and say, "You are allowed to protect yourself." Sometimes they cried before they believed me. I understood that too. Brianna visited often that year, more often than anyone else. Sometimes she came over after school and did homework at my kitchen table. Sometimes we baked. Sometimes we watched old movies and made fun of the dramatic music. She was accepted into a college in North Carolina, not too far from home, and when the letter came, she drove straight to my house before telling anyone else. She ran through my front door, waving the envelope. Grandma, I knew before she said it. We screamed. We cried. We danced in the kitchen with no music playing. Then I made pancakes for dinner because celebration does not always have to make sense. Our relationship changed after everything. It became deeper, more honest. I no longer tried to protect her from every hard truth, and she no longer treated me like someone too fragile to know reality. She told me when things were tense at home. I told her when I missed the family I thought we had. We were grandmother and granddaughter. Yes, but also two people who had survived the same storm from different rooms. Marcus began repaying monthly. Not much at first. The amount was smaller than the debt deserved, but larger than his pride wanted. The first payment came with no note. The second came late. The third came on time. By the sixth, Lauren told me he had not missed again. He called me once that summer. "Mom," he said, voice low, "I know paying you back doesn't fix it." I sat on the porch, watching fireflies blink in the yard. "No," I said, "it doesn't." He breathed out. "But it is a start," I added. He was quiet so long, I thought he had hung up. Then he said, "I'm sorry." I had imagined those words for months. In my imagination, they healed everything. In real life, they simply opened a door a few inches. "Thank you for saying that," I told him. I did not invite him over. Not yet. That was growth, too. Tasha wrote me a letter. A real one, on paper mailed to my house. I recognized her handwriting immediately. It sat on my kitchen table for 2 days before I opened it. In it, She did not ask for money. Not once. She wrote that she had started counseling. She wrote that Brianna's distance had hurt her more than the bank account closing. She wrote that she was ashamed of using her daughter's name to reach my heart. She wrote that she did not fully understand how much pressure she had put on me until she had to sit with her own daughter, refusing to trust her. At the end, she wrote, "I miss you, Mom. Not your help, not your money. You." I cried for a long time after reading that. But I did not call right away. The old me would have called within minutes, desperate to erase her pain and mine at the same time. The woman I had become folded the letter, carefully placed it beside Samuel's, and gave my heart time to tell the difference between an apology and a pattern. By Thanksgiving, I felt ready for a small dinner. Not the kind we used to have, crowded and loud, with everyone pretending everything was fine, while bills and resentments passed under the table like secret dishes. This dinner was smaller, simpler. I made turkey breast instead of a whole bird. Green beans, cornbread dressing, cranberry sauce, sweet potato casserole, and 1 pecan pie. Brianna came early to help. Tasha came too quiet and nervous, carrying a salad she had made herself. Marcus arrived with rolls and an envelope containing his November repayment receipt, which he did not mention until after dinner. Monica came alone. She hugged me carefully and asked before stepping into the kitchen. Derek did not come. No one said his name. That absence was part of the truth, too. At the table, nobody talked about money. Nobody joked about my house. Nobody asked what I planned to do with my savings. Nobody called me dramatic, paranoid, or selfish. We were not perfect. We were not fully healed. But for the first time in years, I did not feel like the price of being loved was being drained. After dinner, I looked around the smaller table. There were empty chairs. There were scars. There were things that might never return to the way they had been. But there was also Brianna laughing softly at something Marcus said. There was Tasha washing dishes without being asked. There was Monica drying them in silence, not hiding this time, simply helping. There was Samuel's photograph on the sideboard, watching over a family that had broken and not entirely disappeared. I realized then that closing the accounts had not destroyed my family. It had destroyed the lie that I had to pay to keep one. Later that night, after everyone left, I stood in the kitchen with a cup of tea. The house was quiet again. But it was not the old quiet. This quiet had room for me. I touched the blue vase on the table, the yellow roses opening wide beneath the soft light, and I thought about everything I had lost. Money, trust, illusions, the comfort of pretending. Then I thought about what I had gained. My name, my house, my dignity, my life. For years, I had believed love meant leaving every door open. Now I knew better. Real love knocks. Real love waits. Real love does not sneak in through an account number and call it family. I still loved my children. I probably always would. But I no longer confused love with access. I no longer believed forgiveness required me to reopen the doors that nearly ruined me. I opened my heart slowly, but I kept my accounts closed. And that was how I finally came home to myself. Lessons and message. Destiny's story is not only about money. It is about dignity, boundaries, and the painful truth that sometimes the people closest to us can become comfortable taking more than we are able to give. Loving your family does not mean surrendering your future. Being a mother, grandmother, widow, or older woman does not mean your bank account, your home, your privacy, or your peace belongs to everyone else. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect what you worked for. You are allowed to ask questions when something feels wrong. And you are allowed to stop helping when help has turned into entitlement. Sacrifice is beautiful when it comes from love, but sacrifice becomes dangerous when others start treating it like a permanent obligation. No one should have to buy affection, keep family close through payments, or stay silent just to avoid being called selfish. Forgiveness is also not the same as reopening the door to harm. You can forgive and still keep your boundaries. You can love someone and still refuse to fund their irresponsibility. You can leave room for healing without giving people the same access they abused. Sometimes boundaries feel like they are breaking a family, but the truth is, boundaries often reveal what was already broken. And if there is anything real left, boundaries give it a chance to grow honestly. If this story touched you, tell me in the comments, have you ever felt used by relatives or pressured to give more than you could afford? Do you believe financial boundaries can save a family? Or do they always create distance? Also comment where you're watching from and what time it is there. If you connected with Destiny's journey, please like this video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and share it with someone who needs to remember that love should never cost them their dignity.